Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Hiruzen assigned special Anbu to protect Naruto from villagers part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. A boring bodyguard mission? Come on, Granny, give me something better than that. Naruto groaned, tightly clenching his hands into fists. There was nothing more humbling than having your own weakness thrown in your face. It had only been a week since Naruto saw Sasuke for the first time in 3 years, and he had grown far stronger than Naruto ever could have imagined. If he were to ever fulfill his promise to Sakura and bring Sasuke back to the village, he needed to get serious. A C-rank bodyguard mission wasn't going to cut it, not when there was this much imbalance between them. Lady Tsunade slammed her palms onto the desk in front of her with a crack that echoed through her office. Stop your whining! You don't get to pick and choose, this is your mission. Naruto recoiled at the impact, but refused to back down. But this isn't going to make me stronger. Why do I have to get stuck babysitting someone when I could be training? Tsunade drew in a long, sharp breath and released it through her nose. She gathered a stack of shuffled papers, aligning the edges with a sharp smack against her desk. I think you're the only shinobi who might have a chance at succeeding on this mission. Naruto blinked. Heh? But it's just a simple bodyguarding mission? Not this one. Her golden eyes narrowed. You'll be escorting a member of our torture and interrogation division. Her name's Katona. Torture? You mean, like Ibiki? Naruto shuddered. She's a highly skilled interrogator with unique abilities, Tsunade explained. But she's not exactly easy to work with. Tsunade handed Naruto the thick stack of papers, jabbing the top of them with her index finger. These are all the shinobi I've already sent with her. Every single one came back begging me to take them off the assignment. They just quit? But why? Naruto gawked, flipping through the papers. So many people. Even Jonin. That's for you to find out. Tsunade sank back into her chair and pinched the bridge of her nose. I can't send her out with a bodyguard that hates her, and you have a knack for making friends. I just hope you fare better than the others. Naruto felt a determined grin creep onto his face. All right then. If that's the way it is, I'll be back with nothing to report but success. Tsunade smirked, already stamping another document. You'd better. Dismissed. Back at his apartment, golden light spilled through the open window, carrying the smell of fresh air into his stuffy bedroom. Sand trickled slowly into the bottom half of the hourglass on his nightstand as he dumped piles of mission gear onto his bed, all needing to somehow fit in his backpack. He haphazardly shoved everything inside, compressing the contents with his hand as he forcefully zipped it shut. He grabbed the cup of ramen next to the now emptied hourglass, peeled back the lid, and let the steam engulf his face. The familiar aroma of salty broth never ceased to delight him. All right, he said to no one, slurping down the noodles so fast he scalded his tongue. Moments later, Naruto tied his headband tight around his head and clipped his backpack around his waist. He tossed his empty ramen cup in the trash can as he glanced at the clock above his kitchen table before darting out the door in a frenzy. He was going to be late. He dashed through the village, weaving through crowds of people casually strolling about. The main gate was still so far away and, yet, he was supposed to meet everyone there in only a few short minutes. He ran faster, his breath quickening as the gasps of people he ran past faded behind him. The thought of this interrogator lady that no one wanted to work with made him uneasy. He pictured Ibiki, severe, terrifying, covered in scars, but with long, knotted hair. Would she torture him if he were late? He gulped and picked up the pace, not wanting to find the answer to his question. The main gate towered ahead, its wooden doors fully open for shinobi to filter in and out throughout the day. Only a single group of 3 shinobi stood in front of the open gate. That had to be his team. Hey! Naruto yelled, waving his arms as he sprinted towards them. 2 boys stood side by side and 1 girl with waist-length, straight hair faced them, hands on hips. She sharply turned just as Naruto came to a sudden halt right in front of her, kicking up a cloud of dust. Phew, sorry I'm late, he wheezed, bending over with his hands braced on his knees. The girl paused for a moment before the corners of her lips turned upward. You're not late, her voice smooth and calm. Her hand methodically adjusted her light brown hair so it lay neatly in front of her shoulders, smoothing out the unruliness from her sudden movement. You're here for bodyguard duty, right? Naruto blinked, searching for the terrifying interrogator he was supposed to guard. The 3 ninjas standing before him all looked quite young. He doubted they could be much older than him, if at all. These must be her subordinates. Yup. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, he said, grinning. The girl rolled her shoulders back to stand up straighter before taking a step towards him. He felt compelled to do the same, pulling his body back to an upright position. Her movements were deliberate and poised as she extended her right hand. Naruto hesitated, then gripped her hand firmly, surprised by the iciness of her fingers against his skin. It's nice to meet you, Naruto, she said softly. He nodded, a bit dazed, until one of the boys stepped forward. Hi, I'm Toma, he introduced himself, confidently offering his hand. His dark hair was pulled into a short ponytail on the back of his head. Mushoho, muttered the other guy, hands buried deep in the pockets of his coat, dark glasses hiding his eyes. All right then. The girl looked around, her eyes hovering over each of them, one by one. Are you all ready to go? Wait, you didn't say your name. And shouldn't we wait for that scary interrogator lady to show up first? Naruto scratched his head. What was her name again? Katona? She said, brows furrowing. Yeah. That's it, Katona. I can't believe I was so worried about being late when she's not even here yet. Naruto raised a single eyebrow as he leaned toward the group. Do you guys have any tips for staying on her good side? Naruto joked, but truly, he was concerned about how he might act around this woman. He had a way of unintentionally making people mad at him, and he knew that now was the time to be more careful. Silence fell over them. The girl exhaled sharply, dropping her head. Toma groaned, slapping a palm to his face before dramatically dragging it down. Mushoho wordlessly shook his head at Naruto. Am I really that scary? The girl mumbled. Huh? Naruto blinked. Toma sighed and stepped beside him, leaning in close so only Naruto could hear. If you want to stay on Katona's good side, he advised, maybe you should start by apologizing for insulting her straight to her face. Naruto's eyes widened in horror, glancing at the girl standing sheepishly in front of him. Wait, she's? Oh no. Without a second thought, Naruto dropped to his knees before her. I'm so sorry, he blurted, shaking his clasped hands up at her. I didn't mean it. I didn't know. Honest. I was just, you're not scary at all. You're actually really nice, and you look nothing like Ibiki. Lady Tsunade just said you were. Katona blinked at him, listening intently, before crouching down in front of him without a sound, meeting him at eye level. With delicate poise, her hand came to rest on his shoulder, somehow stopping his rant in its tracks. Her eyes softened. I forgive you, she said gently. Please don't worry about it. Naruto looked at her, wide-eyed. Somehow, her kindness only made him feel worse. I'm really sorry, Katona, he muttered, eyes down. She shook her head, giving his shoulder a gentle squeeze. You said it was a mistake. I promise not to hold your mistakes against you. With a content sigh and a smile, Katona rose, offering him her hand. Naruto hesitated for a moment before accepting her help. With steady balance, she pulled him back to his feet. For a fleeting moment, he wondered what could possibly be so bad about being Katona's bodyguard. Now then, she said, seriousness washed over her face in a heartbeat. Allow me to properly introduce myself. My name is Katona and I'm the leader of this mission. She turned toward the gate, immediately walking as if she knew she would be followed. Now that we're all acquainted, let's get going. The four shinobi stepped through the gates, a breeze whistling as focused silence fell among them. Trees stretched endlessly along the dirt path, providing subtle shade from the beaming sunshine. Mushoho's insects scattered out of his sleeves as he trudged in front of the group. Naruto adjusted his headband and stumbled next to Katona, slight embarrassment still burning his ears. Listen carefully, Katona ordered, glancing at Naruto. It's essential to understand that you and I are on separate missions. Separate missions, Naruto repeated with a nod. He shuffled closer to her to hear her quiet voice better. She nodded. To put it simply, your mission is to let me complete my mission. You're supposed to watch my back, but you must also follow my orders exactly so you don't interfere with my mission. Do you understand? Naruto enthusiastically clenched his fists. Yeah, I will protect you no matter what. I give you my word. Katona quickly turned her head away from him, inhaling sharply. We're headed to a region where 12 Leaf Shinobi were recently captured. We believe the same enemy is responsible. Naruto furrowed his brows. That many? How could they all get taken like that? It's unclear. Most were traveling in teams. The attacks were fast, and the survivors barely saw anything. The patterns are erratic, but the witness reports are consistent. So you're being sent to figure out what's happening. Exactly. And I need to focus entirely on that. Got it. They moved in silence through the trees, leaping from branch to branch. Naruto scanned their surroundings, his senses on high alert. Protecting Katona meant helping the missing shinobi. For that reason, he was resolved to make her feel completely safe with him. Each time he looked to the right of him, Katona looked the same. From the moment they walked through the gates out of the village, she didn't smile, didn't speak. She was steadfast, glaring straight ahead without as much of a glance at Naruto. It was as if he didn't exist to her anymore. Finally, he caught her glancing over at him. He met her gaze for a split second, giving her a determined nod. She scowled at him before whipping her head forward. Naruto scoffed. What was her problem? Naruto grew restless after another stretch of silence. So Katona Granny Tsunade said you have a special ability, what is it? Now's not the time to make conversation. I need to think, she said without looking at him. But he pouted. Katona's glare cut him off. Yeesh, got it. He gulped. Hours passed as they traveled deeper into the land of fire. The trees thickened around them as they strayed further from the path connecting all the villages in the country. Katona, we're about an hour away from the target location, Toma said, landing on a branch ahead. Naruto followed closely behind Katona as she joined Toma and Mushiho, pulling out a map from her backpack. It should be safe for us to stop here for the night. There are no reports of the enemy attacking in this area. Katona folded the map back up and tucked it into her backpack. There's a small clearing up ahead. I'll have my insects scan the perimeter for any signs of the enemy, Mushiho said, stretching his arms out in front of him as thousands of bugs flew out from his sleeves. Naruto shuddered. Shino's clan sure was gross. The setting sun drenched their surroundings in a bath of orange. Katona stood at the edge of the branch, hands on hips, her hair glinting in the light. She was definitely intimidating, but he couldn't imagine someone like her torturing people. It didn't even look like she had ever fought anyone at all. Her skin was flawless, unmarred by scars or even a scrape. Her light pink tank top and skirt looked too clean, her hair too neat. She looked brand new. Beside her, Naruto felt old and weathered, covered in scrapes, scars, and mended tears in the fabric of his jacket. All clear, Mushiho said once his insects crawled back under his coat. Katona's serious face softened, the corners of her lips lifting up. She turned to face everyone standing on the tree branch. Great, lead the way. She beamed. The crackling of the campfire was barely audible against the sound of Toma and Mushiho's chattering. Still, Katona remained as quiet as ever. Naruto sat beside her, watching the shadows of her face dance around from the light of the fire. She slowly nibbled at her grilled fish long after everyone else had finished. How'd someone like you become a torturer anyway? Naruto blurted. Katona turned to face Naruto, tilting her head to the side as she pulled the fish away from her mouth. Toma burst out laughing. She's the worst torturer out there. Cried every time they tried to make her practice it during training, Toma snickered. I don't need to torture people to get information out of them, unlike some people. Besides, it's unethical, she huffed before taking an angry bite out of her fish. So you guys all trained to be interrogators? Naruto looked around. He never thought about how a shinobi became specialized in something. No, Katona's the only interrogator on this team. We all trained with the Intel division with different focuses once we became Chunin, Mushiho clarified. Toma and I specialize in gathering intel. Interrogation is a much more difficult specialty. But I'm extra special because I've also been training in medical ninjutsu. Toma held up his index finger. That's only because you weren't able to progress more as an investigator, Mushiho scoffed. Shut up. Toma shoved him. So you're all already Chunin then, Naruto said to himself, lowering his head. All of his friends had become Chunin, too, leaving him trailing behind. Wait, how old are you anyway? We're 14, Mushiho said, pointing back and forth at himself and Toma. Naruto looked at Katona. Her eyes widened as she covered her mouth with her hand, chewing her food. Toma sighed. She's 15, he said. Wait a minute, if we're the same age, then how come I don't know you? Did you fail the graduation exam at the academy or something? Naruto questioned Katona. She swallowed her food and softly giggled. The flames of the fire illuminated her face as she sat, hugging her knees to her chest. No, of course not. I passed the graduation exam and the Chunin exams on my first try. I just started the academy a little bit late is all. What rank are you, Naruto? Toma asked. Oh, I'm still a genin, but it's only because I've been away from the village for a few years and I keep missing the Chunin exams. Wow, Katona. Lady Hokage must be out of options if she sent a lowly genin to protect you this time, Toma laughed. Lowly? Naruto started to jump up before sinking back into the ground. Or maybe she's come to her senses and realized that she shouldn't be wasting resources by sending higher-ranking shinobi on these missions when it's completely unnecessary. Does it really matter? It's not like they ever do anything anyway, Mushiho added. Naruto would be different from all her past bodyguards then. He stared at Katona, trying to demonstrate just how seriously he was taking this. Even if there was no threat against her, he would make it clear that he was actively thinking about protecting her at all times. If he could prove how useful he was, then maybe he wouldn't find out why all the others quit on her. He watched Katona inch slightly closer to the fire and squeeze her legs tighter to her chest. Naruto noticed goosebumps on her bare arms. The night air had grown cold, and she wasn't dressed for it. With that in mind, he had an idea that he thought would make Katona feel even more protected. It would show just how much he was paying attention to her. He unzipped his jacket, a smile spreading across his face, and shoved it towards Katona after scooting even closer to her. You're cold, aren't you? Here. You can wear my jacket, Naruto urged, looking awfully pleased with himself at how selfless he was being. He was already feeling his upper body grow colder. No, thank you, Katona softly protested, gently pushing the jacket back to Naruto. Naruto forcefully shoved it right back, staring intensely into her eyes with a crazed smile. Come on, it's warm. You'll catch a cold out here. Her voice quiet yet firm, Katona looked Naruto directly in the eye and replied with a simple and final no. Naruto blinked as he silently pushed his arms back through the sleeves of his jacket. So much for trying to help. Katona quietly stood and walked to the tent the team would share. Good night, she muttered as she stepped inside and zipped the opening behind her. On the other side of the fire, the others exchanged uneasy looks. That's just great, Toma groaned. And here I thought things were going better this time. Mushiho shushed him. You'll only make things worse. Whatever, he flopped his back on the grass. I dunno about you, but I'm sleeping out here tonight. Naruto fell back onto the grass, staring up at the tent as the gentle breeze rustled its tarp. Guess he'd be sleeping outside too. A swift kick in the side jolted Naruto awake. Morning dew dampened his clothes, just as it did the blades of grass surrounding him. With his bedroll trapped inside the tent next to Katona, this had been the worst night of sleep in his life. Another kick landed harder this time. All right. Would you knock it off already? Naruto rolled his torso off the ground, rotating from side to crack his back. If you'd just get up already, I wouldn't have to, Toma huffed, drawing his leg back for another kick. Naruto shot to his feet. Okay. I'm up. This guy definitely wasn't above torture. With a quick sip, Mushiho's head popped through the tent's door, his sunglasses catching the morning light. You too, pack up. I'm taking down the tent. Already? Naruto muttered, stumbling toward the tent behind Toma. Inside, he let out a long yawn before glancing around. Where's Katona? Toma didn't look up from rolling his unused bedding. Dunno. Haven't seen her. She left an hour or so ago, Mushiho said casually. Told me to stay put. She what? Naruto's voice cracked. She just went off on her own. I'm supposed to be guarding her. Toma dismissively waved his hand. Every guard she's had says the same thing. 1 second she's there, the next she's halfway across enemy lines. That's just how she is. Enemy lines? Naruto's stomach dropped. He didn't wait for an explanation. Katona, he called, cupping his hands around his mouth. Katona. His voice echoed through the trees, but he received no answer in return. Within seconds, he was bolting into the woods to find her. Maybe Granny Tsunade was onto something when she said Katona was hard to work with, but he wasn't going to quit that easily. He tore through the forest, calling her name until the trees blurred together. He had no idea where he was anymore, and Katona had the only map. Great. Now he was lost, and she was nowhere to be found. Naruto finally stopped on a high branch, leaning against the trunk of the tree to catch his breath. What the hell was she thinking, running off on her own? If something were to happen to her right now, he'd be blamed even though it was her fault for leaving without him. He slid down the trunk to rest, but froze when he heard movement below. Katona? He whispered to himself, peeking over the edge of the branch. No. A man stood in the clearing, suspiciously glancing around before pulling a folded slip of paper from his pocket. Naruto squinted. It was a picture of a girl. Of Katona. Naruto's pulse quickened. Why would this guy have a picture of her? Yeah, it's definitely her, the man muttered while pressing his fingers to his ear. He paused for a few moments. No problem. I can grab her myself before anyone notices. Grab her? That was all Naruto needed to hear. He dropped from the tree, landing a few feet behind the stranger. Who are you, and why are you trying to take her? The guy jerked around, eyes narrowing on Naruto. A flicker of recognition ran through his eyes before he pressed his fingers to his ear again. Humph. There's another one here. Answer me, Naruto shouted, raising his kunai. What are the odds? The man chuckled under his breath as he lunged forward. Naruto blocked the first strike. I won't let you take her. The man remained silent, his movements precise and efficient. Naruto's own strikes were rougher, desperate. He fought to keep up, deflecting another slash that grazed his sleeve. The man ducked, twisting his wrist at the last second, his kunai slicing across Naruto's upper arm. Gah! Naruto winced, staggering back. Warm blood began to soak through the sleeve of his jacket. The man paused, fingers to his ear. Almost done here. What should I do about the oath? Naruto's kick cut him off, slamming him into a tree. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Dozens of Narutos burst into the clearing, surrounding the enemy. They lunged at once, a flurry of orange and fists. The man deflected the first blow, then the second, before being swallowed under the swarm. Ha! Got him! Came a muffled yell from the pile. But the weight beneath them shifted in an instant, and the pile of clones suddenly sank, disappearing in puffs of smoke, one by one. What the? Naruto spun on his heel, scanning the trees. Nothing. The man was gone. Damn it! He slammed his fist into the dirt, breathing hard. He tore off his jacket, ripping a strip from his shirt to tie around the wound. It stung, but it would heal soon enough. He slipped his jacket back on and rolled his sleeve down, the darkness of the fabric concealing the blood. If that guy had a picture of Katona, she had to be close. Hang on, Katona, Naruto whispered, sprinting through the forest. A glimpse of pink fabric caught his eye. Katona knelt by a moss-covered log, studying the ground, completely unaware. Naruto exhaled in relief and ran toward her. Katona! She startled, whipping around. Naruto? Her expression shifted from surprise to irritation in an instant. What are you doing here? Naruto winced at her unexpected tone. What am I doing? I was looking for you. You just ran off without saying anything. She inhaled slowly, her tone calming. I told Mushiho to stay put. That meant all of you. Well, maybe next time tell the guy who's supposed to protect you before you sneak off. I didn't sneak off, you were asleep. Katona stood, brushing the dirt from her knees. Her voice stayed calm, which only made Naruto more frustrated. I was scouting the perimeter. You're overreacting. Naruto's voice rose. Overreacting? There's a guy out here with your face on a piece of paper. He was going to take you. Her eyes widened for a split second before narrowing again. And you confronted him alone? Of course I did. But he got away. Naruto's voice trailed off as he looked at the ground. You could have gotten yourself killed. Her tone was sharp, but her fingers tugged at the hem of her skirt, balling the fabric up in her fist. Yeah, well, you're the one they're after. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Their heavy breathing was the only sound between them. Finally, Katona's gaze softened. Don't tell the others I'm being targeted. They'll only worry. But don't you think? No, Katona cut him off. Her tone was final as she turned away, walking calmly through the forest. Naruto trudged behind her in silence, his jaw clenched, blood still damp beneath his sleeve. Katona led the way, guiding her team off the main trails and into the depths of the forests. It was safer that way, fewer chances for the enemy to find her. She kept her gaze forward, pretending not to notice Naruto's steady presence beside her. Still, her attention drifted back to him between glances at the trees, and her ears never stopped tracking the back and forth of Toma and Mushiho's chatter behind them. Everyone was still there, unharmed, and she would keep it that way. We're entering enemy territory, so stay on high alert, Katona ordered, tucking the folded map into her skirt pocket. She forced back any feelings of fear, slowing her heart rate with a deep breath. Naruto edged closer, drawing a kunai in front of her body to shield her from any attack. His eyes were fierce with determination as he scanned their surroundings, his grip tightening around the weapon. A sudden rustling came from the bushes, cutting through the silence as the group walked deeper into the forest. Before Katona could even turn her head, Naruto was already lunging past her toward the noise. She caught his wrist mid-stride, fingers digging in just enough to stop him. "Wait until I give the order," she whispered, her voice laced with irritation as she released him from her grasp. He groaned slightly, but returned to her side. Katona's focus shifted to Mushoho, and with a curt nod she gave the signal. A dark cloud of insects surged forward, disappearing into the foliage with a faint hum. "They'll search for any chakra signatures nearby," Mushoho whispered to Naruto. Katona held her breath, keeping her attention locked on any noise coming from the forest, waiting for Mushoho's reassurance of their safety. For a moment, the forest felt still. Then the rustling came again, louder this time. Katona's trembling hand drifted toward her kunai holster. "Show yourself!" Naruto shouted, leaping toward the bush before she could stop him again. She jumped after him, pulling him back by the arm with force. The noise stopped. A small, brown rabbit hopped out, erratically racing past the group into another bush. A bunny. Toma chuckled. "My insects didn't find anyone around," Mushoho reported, holding out his arms for his bugs to return to his body. "Good," Katona let out a sigh of relief before stepping in front of Naruto with a scowl. "Don't disregard my orders again. If I have to keep watching what you're doing, what's the point of you being here?" Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding her glare. Yeah, I got it. It just sounded way bigger than a rabbit, alright?" "You're too reckless," she quietly asserted as she turned away. The tension from earlier still clung to the air long after the enemy had turned out to be a rabbit. Katona hadn't said a word to Naruto since scolding him. Her posture was rigid, her pace steady, her gaze locked on the path ahead. Naruto followed close behind, jaw tight, resisting the urge to say something, anything, that might break the silence. He told himself it didn't bother him. He'd been yelled at plenty of times before. But this deliberate ignoring was different. He couldn't take it. So he began. "You think that guy from earlier has something to do with the disappearances?" "Yes." Her answer was clipped, emotionless. Naruto waited for her to add something, but she didn't. "Okay, but why would he be targeting you?" "Don't know." "You don't have any ideas at all?" "No." He groaned. "You really like one-word answers, don't you?" She didn't even glance his way. Instead, she turned slightly toward Mushoho, her tone softening. "You've been using a lot of chakra to keep your bugs deployed. Do you want to take a break before we get there?" "No, I'm still okay to keep moving," Mushoho said, smiling faintly at her. "Toma, how about you? Are you okay?" "Nah, let's just get this over with," he responded. Katona nodded with a faint hum and continued walking. Naruto waited for her to ask him, but she didn't. He clenched his fists. "Hey! What about me? What if I wanted to take a break?" "Oh, you," she said as if she had forgotten about him entirely. "You're not really doing anything. You shouldn't need one." "Not doing anything," Naruto scoffed. "I'm protecting you." "From what? Bunnies?" she said, her tone slightly condescending. Toma burst out laughing, unable to contain himself. "She got you there, Naruto." Naruto shot him a glare. "You try guarding someone like her, and see how funny it is." Katona didn't even break stride, completely ignoring his remark. They continued in tense silence for several minutes, the forest canopy above them thinning as sunlight spilled through the branches. The sounds of the forest only made the lack of conversation more apparent. Finally, Katona slowed and raised her hand. "We're here," she said quietly. The team stopped at the edge of a clearing. It looked like any other clearing in the forest to Naruto. Katona paused, scanning the area. "Mushoho, extend your insects through the western perimeter. Toma, check for any signs of movement or resistance." Naruto stepped forward. "And me?" Katona didn't even look up from her map. "Just stay right here and don't interfere." "How am I supposed to protect you if you won't even let me next to you?" Naruto's voice came out louder than he intended. Her tone sharpened. "It's your mission to figure that out. Now let me do mine." Naruto clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "That's not how teamwork works, you know." "This isn't a team mission," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It's two overlapping ones. I shouldn't have to tell you not to interfere with my mission again." She turned away before he could respond, kneeling beside Toma as he examined a faint mark in the dirt. "What do you think?" she asked. Toma ran a hand through his hair, squinting. Could be a sign of a scuffle, could be nothing. Maybe it was a mid-level offensive technique, though it's hard to say. Katona nodded thoughtfully. "Make note of it anyway. Mushiho, what about you?" "No foreign chakra nearby," he said as his insects drifted back to his sleeves. "If anyone was here, they're long gone." Naruto hovered near the tree-line, watching as the three of them worked together like a well-oiled machine, asking questions, exchanging ideas, finishing each other's sentences. His eyes were glued to Katona. He would protect her, even from this distance. After several minutes of quiet investigation, Katona stood and brushed the dirt from her skirt. "Nothing useful here," she announced. "Let's move on to the next site." Naruto groaned audibly. "Seriously? We're already leaving? Can't we at least take a break? We've been walking all day." She gave him a sideways glance. "Do you plan to argue every time I give an order?" "Maybe if your orders made sense." Toma snorted, amused. Mushiho, ever composed, cleared his throat and motioned to move on. "We should keep going. If we're lucky, the next site might show something the others missed." Katona gave a brief nod and started forward again. Naruto fell into step behind her, still huffing. As the group disappeared into the trees, the wind stirred the empty clearing behind them, scattering the dirt where a leaf shinobi had once vanished without a trace. Naruto glanced back over his shoulder, unease tightening in his chest. By the time mid-afternoon rolled around, Katona slowed her pace again, raising a hand for the others to halt. "We're approaching another disappearance site," she murmured. "Be careful, everyone." Toma scanned the trees. "You think the enemy would still be here?" Before Katona could answer, a figure burst from the underbrush to her left. It was almost silent the way he moved. Katona barely had time to react as he sprinted straight toward her. Instinct took over, she shifted her weight forward to attack, but Naruto was already moving. "It's you again!" He lunged forward, catching her by the waist and pulling her back as the enemy's hand reached for her. The enemy's fingers grazed her bare skin on the side of her arm before Naruto's kunai came up, striking with enough force to send the attacker staggering away. "Get off of me!" Katona twisted out of Naruto's grasp, wielding her kunai at the enemy. Naruto flung a protective arm in front of her, eyes locked on the enemy. "You're not laying a hand on her." "Stay back, Naruto!" She grabbed his arm and swung him behind her, forcing him to the ground. She charged ahead as the enemy ran directly towards her again. "No way!" Naruto yelled, tackling her out of the way before the enemy could reach her. They hit the dirt, rolling. "I told you not to interfere," she snapped, her voice slightly trembling despite her efforts to steady it. Naruto groaned, but whipped his head back toward the enemy, who was now darting from one side of the clearing to the other in a blur of speed. "Mushiho," Katona said, pointing toward the foliage as Naruto chased after him, leaving her sitting on the ground. A cloud of insects scattered into the trees, following the enemy. But the swarm faltered, hovering uncertainly before breaking formation. "There's nothing, no other chakra signature around," Mushiho declared, disbelief creeping into his voice. "That's not possible," Katona said, eyes narrowing. Naruto popped out of the bushes, immediately springing back to Katona's side as she rose to her feet, smoothing her skirt. "I can't find him. What the hell just happened?" Mushiho's insects circled aimlessly. "He's gone. Vanished completely." Might be concealing his presence somehow, Katona trailed off, thinking for a moment. "Toma, put up a field." "Right." He dropped to his knees, slamming his palms to the dirt. His face twisted in a combination of concentration and strain. Katona's knees buckled as she forced herself to scan the area, looking for even a flicker of the enemy. If he were concealing himself somehow, they'd be able to see him now. The only downside was that all of their chakra was dampened, too. And Katona, with what little chakra she had, felt the effects very strongly. She stumbled backwards, Naruto breaking her fall as they both dropped to the ground. Meanwhile, Mushiho sprung into action, shakily jumping up into the trees to search from a higher vantage point. "Hey! What the hell's going on here?" Naruto asked as he rose to his feet. "Why does everything feel so weird all of a sudden?" "Searching for the enemy." Her words came out shakier than she expected. She took a deep breath to push out the words faster this time. Toma's field suppresses chakra in everyone. Katona leaned back on her hands, steadying herself. It was hard for her to even move, her body felt so heavy. And yet, when she looked back up, Naruto's fingers were crossed while two shadow clones poofed into existence. Katona's eyes widened. Even Mushoho, who had a lot of chakra, was affected by Toma's jutsu to the point that he couldn't use his insects. But somehow, Naruto was making multiple shadow clones with ease. It didn't make sense. Naruto's clones scattered into the trees while the real Naruto stared down at her. Katona gritted her teeth. After a few minutes, Toma collapsed onto his back and the field died. He panted, sweat rolling down his temple. Katona caught her breath as her chakra began flowing again. The pressure on her body released, allowing her to jump back to her feet, hoping for Mushoho to come back with the enemy in tow. But as Mushoho descended to the ground, her heart sank. "Did you get him?" Toma asked, his eyes closed. "I didn't see him anywhere," Mushoho lowered his head. When Naruto's shadow clones returned, Katona jolted her head away with a huff. She listened to the three Narutos whisper amongst themselves for a moment, waiting for them to go away. The other Miis couldn't find him, either. Naruto's voice was low. His hands balled up tightly into fists as he stared at Katona. "He got away," Katona softly declared. Her heart pounded in her chest. Katona Toma's voice was more serious than ever. "He just tried to take you, didn't he?" "Yes," she muttered, lowering her head to stare at the kunai she didn't get to use. A hand landed firmly on her shoulder. "I won't let that happen," Naruto said, his fingers lightly digging into her skin as he scanned the trees. His resolve was palpable. Pushing him away wasn't working. Making him mad at her wasn't working. She had done this so many times, so why wasn't it working? Why couldn't she break him? The other bodyguards had been easy. It never took long to wear them down, to make them count the minutes until they could leave her behind. They'd swear they'd keep her safe, but Katona delighted in the moment their promises became empty. The faint ringing in her ear revealed their lies every time. And once the lies came, she'd won. They'd stopped trying to protect her. But Naruto wasn't lying. Not even a flicker. She couldn't sense the faintest tremor of deceit from him, only steady conviction. He actually believed what he said. And somehow, that made her angrier. She needed to make him stop. "If you hadn't interfered, he wouldn't have gotten away." Katona pushed his hand off her shoulder, clenching her fists. "What?" Naruto's eyes widened. "You think this is my fault?" "You distracted me," she said. "I told you to wait until I gave my orders, didn't I?" "Wake me up when you two are done," Toma groaned, folding his hands under his head and closing his eyes. "Whose side are you on anyway, Toma?" Naruto growled before turning back to Katona, pointing. "Give me a break, Katona. You almost got taken." "I did not. I could have handled it myself." "If I let you handle it, you wouldn't be standing here." Katona ignored him and crossed her arms, turning away from Naruto with a huff. "Toma, Mushoho, check the perimeter," she calmly ordered before turning back to Naruto. "And you, just stay out of my way for once." Naruto silently stepped behind her, closer than before this time, as Toma and Mushoho jumped up into the trees. Katona squeezed her eyes shut, pushing back tears. Her hand drifted to the side of her bicep where the enemy's fingers had brushed against her skin. For a fleeting moment, she replayed the scene in her head. Naruto's lingering presence behind her was a staunch reminder of how close she came to being captured. She inhaled deeply, forced her eyes open, and pressed on. Using the light of the campfire, Katona marked up the map with tiny X's over each site they visited. Apart from the brief enemy encounter, this mission was leading them nowhere in their investigation. While Mushoho and Toma slept inside the tent, Naruto stayed up with her. She couldn't get any time alone with him constantly hovering. Though Mushoho's insects confirmed the absence of any outsider's chakra, the earlier attack still loomed over the team. Telling Naruto to stay out of her way only seemed to bring him closer to her. He had been sitting across from her, staring at her through the flames since they set up camp for the evening. Though she didn't look back at him, she could feel his eyes on her. Katona finally broke the silence, making another attempt to drive him away. "You can stop watching me now. I'm not going to run off again." Naruto scoffed. "Yeah, right. Like I'd trust you not to disappear again. You think I'm just gonna let you be alone after what happened today?" Katona focused on the circle she drew over the area where the enemy attacked her. "You shouldn't waste your energy worrying about me. Nothing happened," she snapped. His voice dropped. "You scared the hell out of me, Katona." Katona waited for the ringing to sound in her ear, but it didn't. She covered her ears with her hands to focus harder. Nothing changed. The only sound was the crackling of the fire between them. He wasn't lying. Her chest tightened as she looked up from her map for the first time all evening. Naruto stared at her with such intensity. He looked worried, but, more than anything, he looked determined. She swallowed hard. He shouldn't be this scared for her, not after everything she did. At this point, he should be feeling at least somewhat apathetic about her safety. Instead, he was more determined than before. Her tactics were backfiring. She averted her eyes from his face, noticing a rip in his sleeve. If pushing him away wasn't working, then she'd have to try something else, gaining his trust. Then, maybe, she could convince him to stay away from her. "Give me your jacket," she said, her voice softening. Her fingers found a small sewing kit from her backpack. Trust, she'd learned in her training, was just another tool. Huh! Naruto scratched the back of his neck. Katona waved the sewing kit in her hand and pointed at the tear on his left bicep. "Your sleeve is torn. Let me mend it before it gets worse." Naruto paused, staring back at her with a confused face. "Really? You want to help me?" "Is that so surprising?" Katona asked, moving so that she could sit next to him. "Yeah, sorta," he chuckled. "But I guess if you really want to help." Naruto cautiously yanked down the zipper and slid his arms out from the sleeves, keeping his eyes locked on Katona as if he were studying her. She smiled softly, reaching out her arms with open palms. Warm. Non-threatening. But as he pulled the jacket off of his left arm, her hands reached out to touch him instead. Her fingers traced the makeshift bandages wrapped around his bicep, torn strips of fabric, dark with dried blood. The bottom of his t-shirt was missing. "You're hurt?" She pressed down on his arm slightly, making him wince. Katona ran back to her backpack, returning with a small first aid kit. Naruto grabbed her wrist, keeping her hand away as she reached toward his arm again. "It's nothing," he said. A faint ringing sounded in her ear. "Then you won't mind me changing the bandages, HM?" she whispered, locking eyes with him. He averted his eyes from her, but released her wrist. Katona carefully unraveled the strip of fabric loosely wrapped around his arm, revealing a gash surrounded by a mess of dried blood. She inhaled sharply, quickly pouring water over a clean cloth. "When did this happen?" Katona asked in a hushed voice. One hand held the back of his arm while the other gently wiped away the excess blood with the wet cloth. "This morning," Naruto answered after a long pause, his voice quieter than before. "When I was looking for you." Katona paused, narrowed in on the gash, cleaned it with as little pressure as possible, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. "I'm sorry," Katona finally whispered as she delicately wrapped Naruto's arm with fresh bandages. Her hands trembled as she tied the last knot. "Hey, it's not a big deal," Naruto said softly. "I heal really fast." She turned away toward the fire, pulling his jacket into her lap. Her fingers still hadn't stopped shaking as she sewed together the ripped fabric, accidentally poking herself with the needle over and over. She didn't even flinch. When she finished, she folded the jacket neatly and placed it in his lap, keeping her head facing away from him. "Thanks, Katona," Naruto said, his voice low and serious. She stepped into the tent, pressing her fingertips together to stop the bleeding. The night air was cool against Naruto's skin as his fingers traced the new stitches on his jacket. The silence of the forest was simultaneously peaceful and unnerving. The enemy was still out there, and yet, all Naruto could think about was how confusing Katona had been all day. Naruto sat where she'd left him, his jacket still folded neatly in his lap, eyes shifting between the dying fire and the tent. He wasn't sure what to feel. Anger came easy. She'd spent the whole day arguing, running off on her own, and blaming him for anything that went wrong. But underneath that anger, something heavier pressed on his chest. He touched the bandages around his arm, remembering the tremor in her hands when she tied the knot. She'd apologized, barely loud enough to hear. And for some reason, that had hurt worse than the cut itself. Naruto sighed, dragging a stick through the ashes until sparks flared and vanished. He hated that he didn't know what to make of her. She was bossy, cold, impossible to read, but then she'd look at him with those quiet eyes, and he recognized something in them. Maybe she was just scared. He wouldn't blame her if she was. Hell, he was scared for her. "Anything to report?" Naruto looked up. Mushiho knelt beside him. "Nope," Naruto muttered, scratching the back of his head. "You here to take over watch?" Mushiho nodded, staring into the fire. "That's the plan. You should rest while you can. We have a long way to travel in the morning." Naruto shook his head, looking back down at his jacket. "Not tired yet." Mushiho didn't push. For a while, they just listened to the sounds of the forest. Finally, Naruto spoke. Hey, you've known Katona for a long time, right? Since we graduated from the academy, Mushiho replied. It's always been the same team, me, Toma, and her. Naruto hesitated before asking, is she always like this? Mushiho chuckled quietly. No, she isn't always like this. She's always been serious, but especially so on missions. You've probably noticed that she treats me and Toma differently than she treats you. Yeah, she actually respects you guys, Naruto scoffed. She has problems with all her bodyguards, Mushiho said. They all try to stay close to her, but she refuses. Especially during interrogations. She says they require complete privacy. Does she realize how dangerous that is? She doesn't seem to care. Mushiho's voice was quiet. I actually think that's the point. She's more worried about her bodyguards getting hurt than about herself. That doesn't make any sense, Naruto frowned. It's their job to protect her. I know. Mushiho's tone suggested he'd had this argument before, with Katona, maybe with himself. But try telling her that. Well, I don't care what she wants, Naruto scoffed. There's no way I could just leave her alone like that. It's my job to protect her, right? None of her other guards seem to mind having an excuse to get away from her. Why do you feel so strongly about it? I don't know. All she cares about is doing her job, and she will stop at nothing to ensure she's successful. So it's not a personal failure if you want to quit. Quit? Naruto sat up, glaring at Mushiho. Who said anything about quitting? You're serious about this, then, Mushiho smiled faintly. My advice, try talking to her about something other than missions. But what's there even to talk about? Naruto huffed. Talk about yourself. She's a good listener. That's hard to believe. Naruto put his jacket back on. Mushiho chuckled. She might surprise you. I hope so, Naruto said, stretching with a yawn. Guess I'll get some sleep then. Inside the tent, it was dark and warm. Toma snored softly near the back. Mushiho's empty bedroll flattened between him and Katona. She lay on her side, nearly curled into herself. He carefully stepped over her legs and crouched down on his own bedroll next to her, hesitating before lying down. His eyes lingered on her face, just barely visible in the darkness. He hadn't noticed how tense her face normally was until this moment. She looked so peaceful, almost like an entirely different person. Her normally furrowed brows were now fully relaxed, her lips slightly parted as she gently breathed. Naruto sighed and rolled onto his back, letting himself take a short nap. He couldn't risk Katona waking up before him again. The next thing Naruto saw was Katona's sleeping face across from his, now visible in the early morning light. Naruto sat up quietly, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Her eyes flicked open instantly, locking on him. He gulped, preparing to be scolded for something. Morning. Katona blinked, then pushed herself upright. What time is it? A morning time? Clearly, she muttered, smoothing her hair with her fingers. She ducked out of the tent without another word. Naruto followed behind, inhaling deeply as he stepped outside. Try talking to her about something other than missions. Easier said than done. She clearly didn't want to talk to him about anything at all. But he had to try. I thought I'd overslept, Katona exhaled as she spoke to Toma, who was stretching by the fire. We don't need to leave for another hour or two, go get some more sleep. Don't mind if I do, Toma mumbled, disappearing back into the tent. Katona turned to Naruto. You, too. Go back to sleep. Her voice was soft, sincere. It was weird to see her like this. But after what happened last night, maybe she was finally warming up to him. I'm not tired anymore, he said quickly, scratching the back of his head. You asleep okay? Katona blinked at him, tilting her head slightly. I did. Naruto laughed nervously. Good. That's good. He immediately regretted starting this conversation. Katona gave him a weird look before crouching to the ground, pulling out a ration bar. She turned her body away from Naruto and sat on the ground to eat. Naruto took a deep breath and plopped down right in front of her, cross-legged. I love ramen, he declared. Katona stopped mid-bite, staring at him with wide eyes. Ramen, he repeated, grinning. I could eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I do. All the time. She continued to stare at him. Naruto's smile faltered. I see. Ramen is good, she said hesitantly. It's the best, he grinned. My favorite is a large miso with extra pork from Ichiraku. Have you been there? Can't say I have. What? Naruto had to resist grabbing her shoulders and shaking her. But you said you like ramen? Well, yes. But I just make it myself. Oh, I see. You like the instant stuff, that's what I do, too. No, I prefer homemade ramen. With fresh ingredients. Yeah, fresh is better. Naruto grinned, emboldened. Hey, I know. Maybe when we get back to the village, we can all go to Ichiraku as a team. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward him briefly before returning to her food. Maybe. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Katona nodded toward his arm. How's your wound? Naruto touched the bandages through his sleeve. Oh, that? Doesn't even hurt anymore. Thanks for patching me up, he said, softer now. Don't mention it. You should eat something. Lots of walking today. Right. Naruto scrambled to pull out a cup of instant ramen from his backpack. He filled a pot with water and set it over the fire. You weren't kidding, Katona said under her breath. Instant ramen for breakfast. Naruto heard the faintest giggle, so quiet he wasn't sure if he had imagined it or not. But when he turned to look at her, she had a slight smile on her face. Naruto chuckled. I told you so. By the time they left camp, the morning mist had lifted, leaving the air clean and bright. Dew clung to the tall grass lining the path, brushing against their legs as they walked. Katona led the way, her attention fixed on the map in her hand. Mushoho and Toma followed several paces behind, talking in low voices. Naruto trailed behind Katona for a few minutes, silently watching her hair swing from side to side. He took a deep breath and sped up to walk beside her. Naruto exhaled and kicked a pebble down the path. You know, I was thinking, you never told me what kind of food you actually like. I mean, if you're gonna make fun of me for eating ramen all the time, you should at least tell me what's better. Katona's eyes flicked toward him. We can talk about food later. Her voice was softer than it had been the day prior. Right. Mission stuff only. Got it, he muttered, looking away as a small smile crept on his face. Later was better than never. We're getting close to the river crossing, Katona said, walking faster. He mirrored her pace, staying firmly by her side. When they reached the river, the air grew cooler. The water was low but fast-moving, the stones slick with moss. Katona stood at the bank, testing the slickness of a stone surfacing above the water with her foot. You sure that's safe? What? Are you scared? She smirked, stepping out onto the first stone. Her balance was perfect, like she'd done this 100 times before. No. Of course not. Naruto followed behind her, less gracefully. But you know, one wrong step and whoa! His sandals slipped on a wet rock. He windmilled his arms, hoping she wouldn't see him look like this when he was supposed to be protecting her. But she swung around, wide-eyed, reaching out as if she were going to catch him. His heart jumped. Naruto quickly regained his balance and gave her a thumbs up. He waited until she turned back around before moving again. When they reached the other side, she fixed her hair and kept moving. Try being more careful. I was being careful, Naruto groaned, chasing after her to walk next to her again. Hours later, the team drew closer to the next disappearance site, just below a cliff. Katona stopped at the edge, scanning the descent with a frown. Watch your footing. The ground's unstable. She stomped for emphasis, a portion of soil breaking off of the edge and tumbling down. Toma and Mushoho quickly descended to the bottom of the cliff. Toma running straight down, sticking his feet to the surface of the vertical cliff, and Mushoho jumping off with his bug softening his landing. Katona crouched down, peering over the edge. She frowned, scanning the area. You go on ahead, I'll meet you down there, she said, taking a step back from the edge. What's the matter? Naruto's eyebrows shot up. Katona scratched her arm. I don't want to fall, she said, hesitantly. She was actually scared. And she admitted it to him. Naruto's chest warmed. He wasn't going to take that lightly. Not on my watch, you won't, Naruto said, hopping down on a small ledge several feet below. He turned back toward her with a grin, reaching his hand up to her. I've got it, she muttered, testing the stability with her foot again before turning her body around and attempting to climb down the cliff. Naruto waited on the ledge as she cautiously climbed down. Suddenly, the earth under her feet gave way, sending her sliding down rapidly. Naruto moved without thinking, catching her by her waist and pulling her onto the unaffected ledge as that portion of the cliff continued tumbling down all the way to the bottom. He pulled her closer to him against the side of the cliff. She was really close. Her torso was almost pressed against his chest, rising and falling with her heavy breathing. His fingers pressed into her sides, bare skin where her tank top ended. He gulped. Try to be more careful, he managed. Naruto kept his grip firmly on her waist as her cheeks turned pink. He released his hands, letting them hover in the air between them. His skin burned. Why was she blushing? Thanks, she whispered, averting her eyes before climbing down the cliff again, faster this time. Inside the forest at the base of the cliff, Mushoku motioned his fellow teammates to stop behind him. Still looking forward, he held out his arm as a small swarm of insects landed on his hand. My insects found something, he said, following the small swarm of insects that had now taken flight. We should take extra caution, Katona warned. Naruto moved closer to her out of habit, eyes darting through the trees. Every rustle in the wind had him ready to strike. After seeing what the enemy tried to do, he wouldn't take any chances. He wasn't about to let anyone slip past him a second time. The team followed the swarm until it descended into a dense bush. Mushoku crouched down and reached inside, shifting through the woody stems and leaves. He pulled out a tattered leaf village headband and held it up to show his teammates. Mushoku passed the headband to Katona, who inspected it, running her fingers over the fabric. She pulled a plastic bag from her backpack and dropped it inside, her eyes drifting up toward the canopy above. Her hands reached toward the nape of her neck, untying her own headband. Her hair fell loose around her face, but she quickly tucked it behind her ears, smoothing the strands down with precision. Then, without warning, she launched herself into the trees. Katona! Damn it! Naruto said under his breath, leaping after her. He found her perched high on a branch, peering down at the ground below. You can't just run off like that. You almost gave me a heart attack, Naruto growled. It was almost like she was trying to make his job more difficult. I know you can keep up, she said. Naruto couldn't tell whether or not that was meant to be a compliment. Naruto walked toward her as she leaned over the edge of the branch, dangling her headband in the air by the fabric. Toma and Mushoku looked so tiny from this height. What are you even doing? He muttered. Please stop talking for now. I need to focus, she responded, not even bothering to look at him when she spoke. Naruto huffed, but complied. He watched as she adjusted her stance, squinting down through the branches. Finally, she let the fabric slip through her fingers, tracking it with her eyes as it fell through the air. Focus on what? Dropping stuff? Naruto scoffed. Katona glared at him with a small, exasperated sigh before jumping back down to the forest floor. Naruto followed close behind, landing just as she crouched beside a bush. A faint laugh escaped her lips. Go investigate in the trees, she ordered Toma and Mushoku, dangling her headband in front of them. Huh? What is it? Naruto put a hand on Katona's shoulder from behind, gently pulling her to face him so he could see, too. Her body tightened under his hand before she took a step forward, increasing the distance between them. His hand dropped to his side, fingers folding into his palm. It doesn't concern you, Katona stated, her back to Naruto. Focus on your own mission. He froze at her tone. I'm sorry, I was just trying to help, Naruto mumbled, lowering his gaze. His chest felt tight. Katona looked over her shoulder directly at Naruto for a moment, her eyes softening on him. If he didn't know any better, he'd have thought she felt sorry for him. She slowly turned back around and silently walked further away from him. Naruto stayed right behind her. She knelt by her backpack next to the bush. Then, to his surprise, she turned around and approached him holding both her own headband and the damaged one from the bush. Tell me what you see, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened for a split second at the sudden shift in Katona's behavior. Was he allowed to be interested in the investigation, or wasn't he? 2 headbands? He hesitated, preparing for Katona to scold him again for not focusing on his own mission, but instead, she just faintly smiled. Relief washed over him. Right, do you notice any differences between the 2? She prodded. Naruto leaned in, inspecting them closely. They look the same to me. They're both all messed up looking. Exactly. She extended a hand toward him. Now give me yours. He hesitated but untied it, placing it in her palm. Katona walked over to the same bush and let it fall. It landed gently on the leaves, the long straps dangling down completely unscathed. What's with you dropping everyone's headbands into bushes? Naruto scratched his temple. Well, come see for yourself, she chuckled, motioning him to join her. Naruto looked at his headband on top of the bush, then looked at Katona smiling at him. Though he had no idea why she was smiling, he couldn't help himself but to smile right back at her. I still don't get it. Try looking closer, she said, handing him his headband back. She held her tattered headband beside his as they stood shoulder to shoulder. Give me a hint, would you? All I know is that your headband looks all messed up and ugly. Guess you'll need to fix it after this mission. Katona softly gasped, looking up at Naruto with her lips pressed together in a slight frown. Crap. Did he say something wrong? Yeah, you're right, but why is my headband ugly and tattered like that and not yours? Are you serious? You threw your headband from way up there. Of course it was going to get ruined. And my headband looks the same as the headband we found, right? Naruto thought for a moment, carefully examining the headbands in front of him again. He looked up into the trees above him, and suddenly it clicked. Then the headband we found must have fallen from up in the trees, which is why you sent Mushiho and Toma up there. Katona smiled and nodded at Naruto in confirmation, with the same softness in her eyes that she had when he first met her. Most people would have just called him an idiot and explained it outright, but Katona had guided him to figure it out himself. She didn't insult him, or make him feel inferior to her for not understanding. It was a type of kindness that he wasn't used to receiving. Katona pulled her hair back with her headband, tying it back into place. Naruto followed suit with his own. Maybe I should have dropped your headband from the trees instead of mine, Katona joked, running her fingers over the tears in the fabric on her head. Naruto chuckled. She was no longer as pristine as she looked before. Nah, I think it suits you. Naruto felt certain that this mission would be smooth sailing going forward. His overconfident attitude returned to him, internally scoffing at the failures of Katona's past bodyguards. He didn't really know what he did to make her change, but felt very pleased with himself nonetheless. Let's keep searching this area. Katona scanned the ground, a look of intensity washing over her. Right. I promise you, I will protect you with my life, Katona. The words came out with more intensity than he'd intended, but he meant them. Especially now. She glanced over her shoulder at him for the briefest moment before turning her eyes back to the ground, her expression unreadable. While everyone else shifted their focus to the investigation, Naruto's thoughts stayed fixed on Katona's safety. He followed closely behind Katona, watching as she studied the ground for more clues. Each time Katona crouched down to inspect something, he positioned himself right behind her, shielding her even though there was nothing to fight. He'd been on dozens of escort missions like this, but this one felt different. The thought of something happening to her on his watch made his stomach drop in a way that had nothing to do with mission protocol. He made her a promise, and somewhere between saying the words and now, that promise had become more important than the mission itself. He peered over her shoulder as she ran her fingers over a faint footprint in the ground. These tracks look fresh, Katona murmured, standing back up. They might lead to something. Step by step, she walked alongside the footprints, her gaze locked downward in deep focus. Naruto remained silent, resisting the urge to talk to her. He had so many questions, but he stopped himself each time before the words could spill out of his mouth. This was her element, her mission, and he promised not to interfere. Still, his muscles stayed tense, ready to move at the slightest hint of danger. She could focus this intensely because she felt safe with him now. He could see it in the way she moved in his presence, and he wasn't going to ruin that trust. She had told him before that his mission was to let her complete her mission, and now, finally, she was actually letting him. Above them, branches rustled as Toma and Mushiho continued investigating where Katona had sent them earlier, following the trail into the canopy. She crouched down again. The trail just stops here. Naruto hovered over her, frowning at the final footprint disappearing into untouched soil. Huh? What do you mean stops? Suddenly, she started to stand. Her head bumped squarely into his chest. Ow! She stumbled forward onto her knees, rubbing the top of her head, then glared up at him. You're too close. Oh, right. Sorry. I didn't mean to. He squatted down next to her, craning his neck to look at her face. Are you all right? She only nodded. Naruto jolted back up and reached out to her. Here. Take my hand. I got you. Katona hesitated for a moment, but took his hand, dropping it as soon as she was on her feet. Naruto took a step away from her, trying to figure out the right distance to leave between them. He didn't know why it was so hard to give her space. Maybe because every time he did, he feared what might happen the second he wasn't close enough. She brushed the dirt off her knees before looking up into the trees. He followed her gaze, scanning for any sign of the enemy. They must have jumped. Whoosh. A blur of motion shot past him. His head snapped to where Katona had been standing. She was gone. He looked up into the trees. A man was jumping fast, Katona trapped in his arms. Katona! For a split second, his mind blanked. He'd been right there. A few steps next to her. How could he have missed it? He'd promised to protect her, and yet. Naruto launched himself upward, pouring chakra to his feet. Branches blurred past him. He saw them ahead, barely visible through the leaves, but she was still there. The man moved effortlessly, leaping from one branch to the next with precision. Wind whipped against his face, burning his eyes. His teeth clenched, and he pushed himself even harder. He couldn't lose sight of her. The enemy moved like he remembered every tree, every branch, in this forest. Every leap was perfectly executed. No hesitation. The distance between them widened. Faster. He had to be faster. Katona! The shout tore from his throat. You bastard! Put her down right now! She was fighting. Her legs kicked wildly, her fingers clawing at the man's arm. Naruto caught the terror in her eyes, the desperate tilt of her chin as she tried to look back at him. Hang on! I'm coming! He yelled. She needed to hear it. To know he hadn't given up on protecting her, even if she asked him to. But the forest seemed endless. Every slight stumble cost him precious distance. The man ahead didn't falter once. It seemed almost impossible to catch up to her at this rate. Naruto's blood boiled, filling his chest with an intense burn. The Nine Tails chakra wildly stirred inside him, its voice pleading in a low growl. Use my power. You know you can't catch her on your own. Katona was getting further away and he wasn't getting any faster. The enemy's movements were too unpredictable. He made quick diversions without slowing down, throwing Naruto off over and over. I can catch her, the Nine Tails pressed. She'll be gone forever if you don't. Are you really going to let her get captured like this? Naruto gritted his teeth. It was so tempting. But he promised Captain Yamato he wouldn't rely on that power anymore. Not after he hurt Sakura. He had to be strong enough on his own. He was going to save her. He gave her his word. I can do this. I can do this, he said to himself. He found her face again, closer now. Her eyes met his for the briefest second, wide and frightened. The sight burned into his chest, driving him to push harder. Come on! Almost there. And then, in a blink, she was gone without as much as a sound. The enemy continued on, arms empty. She had just disappeared. He landed hard on the next branch, breath ragged, eyes darting through the trees. His hands clenched into fists. His chest constricted. She was gone. He had promised to keep her safe, and she was just gone. Naruto's fist met the tree trunk, bloodying his knuckles. He was too late. Too slow. What if the enemy had some jutsu that? No. He couldn't just give up. Not like this. He had to find her. Katona? He called, his voice breaking into the silence, listening for any indication that she was still around. Katona? Nothing. Damn it! Where'd she go? He jumped across to another branch. There. Katona? Her limp body was rapidly falling straight down, arms weightlessly flailing above her head, hair and clothes whipping in the wind. For a heartbeat, Naruto couldn't move. His brain refused to understand what he was seeing. She wasn't being pulled by the enemy anymore. She was just falling. Then instinct took over. He launched himself from the branch, diving after her. No time to think. Seconds. That's all he had to get to her. If he was even a moment too slow. Come on! He shouted at himself, forcing his arms to his sides to move through the air faster, closing the distance between them. He wasn't going to lose her. He pulled chakra to his feet, kicked off a trunk, and shot across the opening. He stretched his arms forward. Fingertips brushed against her skin. Got her. He pulled her close. The distance between Katona and Naruto widened with every leap her captor made. She knew it wasn't possible for him to catch up to her at this point, and she couldn't see Mushiho or Toma around either. There was only one way she would be able to escape, and it was something that she really didn't want to resort to. Pathetic. That's what this was. Helpless. Dependent. Everything she'd sworn she'd never be again. But it was her only option. She had to use the worst jutsu in her arsenal, incomplete, useless in combat, and worse, she had to rely on Naruto to choose to catch her. Her soul separation jutsu would leave her paralyzed for 30 seconds, free-falling completely helpless, unable to move. If he didn't catch her, she'd die. Her hands closed over the man's back, forming the seals as quickly as possible. In a flash, her soul separated from her physical body, leaving her body limp in her captor's arms as her soul rapidly plummeted toward the ground, slipping through tree branches like a ghost. After several long seconds, her physical form snapped into the place of her falling soul, disappearing from her captor's arms. But she still couldn't move. Not yet. As her paralyzed body fell through the air, there was nothing she could do but hope that Naruto would catch her in time. At the speed she was falling, she would hit the ground at full force in a matter of seconds before she could do anything to stop it. The air tickled her skin, whooshing in her ears. The fabric of her clothes flapped about, sending waves of cold air onto her exposed stomach. Branches smacked her as she fell, pain radiating through her body. The ground was getting too close for comfort. Just as she accepted her fate, warm hands gripped her firmly under her knees and around her back, fingers digging into her shoulder. The side of her face landed on a solid shoulder, fabric against her skin. Naruto's face hovered inches from hers, the familiar whisker marks, the restless hair, the set of his jaw as he gritted his teeth. Beads of sweat dripped down his cheek. His eyes were fixed forward, pinned to the trees ahead. There was an intensity in it she had seen in him before, an absolute, immovable resolve. Her chest constricted. He'd thrown himself after her without hesitation, showing no signs of stopping. And he'd done it before, too. Fighting the enemy for her. Pushing her out of harm's way. It was the kind of determination that could make someone lose any regard for their own safety. It should have been simple gratitude, but the dread of what might happen if she let this continue overshadowed her all. They landed on a tree branch, Naruto still holding her tight in his arms. He met her gaze and Katona couldn't look away, no matter how hard she tried. She tried wiggling her pinky. Nothing. She had no choice but to look back at him, witnessing every emotion he carried in his face. Fear. Relief. Resolve. He took sharp, heavy breaths as his fingers dug deeper into her skin. His face was too close to hers. He was just staring at her. Mushoku and Toma suddenly jumped past them, chasing after the enemy, and Naruto finally looked away from her. They'd heard the commotion, knew exactly what to do. They had the pre-interrogation routine down pat. Had one of them been there instead of Naruto, she wouldn't have risked the jutsu. Better to stay with the captor and find another way to escape than fall to her death hoping her teammates would catch her. But with Naruto, how had she already trusted someone she just met with her life over teammates she'd known for years? Are you okay? He asked, pulling her from her thoughts. Katona tried wiggling her pinky again. It worked. She nodded, her neck still a little stiff. Naruto sat her down on a tree branch with great care, leaving his bloodied hand on her shoulder as he stood behind her. Katona hid her now trembling hands under her knees. She took a deep breath, attempting to slow her racing heartbeat. If he found out how frightened she truly was, there's no way he would leave her alone. She needed to feign composure. Naruto let out a sigh of relief, though his eyes kept darting toward where his teammates had vanished, tracking the pursuit. Don't worry, Katona said quietly. They'll get him. Toma will use his suppression field immediately this time so that he can't disappear again. It'll keep the enemy visible and slow him down. Mushoku's insects will do the rest. Naruto's brow furrowed. But won't that field affect them, too? Mushoku's trained to work around it. They've done this before. She managed a small smile. It's their combination. Naruto nodded slowly, but tension still radiated from him. His hands moved to form a seal. I should still go help. Let them handle it. I know they can get him. You should take a break. No. I need to do something, damn it. I can't just stand around and let everyone else do all the work, especially when I couldn't even do the one thing I was supposed to do. Naruto balled his hands into fists, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the ground. Katona's heart sank. It was difficult seeing him like this. She patted the branch next to her, inviting him to sit. As he sat, Katona twisted her torso towards him. Her hand was still shaking. She took a breath, forcing it to steady before she touched his shoulder. No, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. Katona paused, the words catching in her throat for a moment. I was only able to escape because I knew you'd be there to catch me. He looked at her, his eyes softening. She gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. I chose to use a jutsu that I wouldn't have even thought about using with any of my previous bodyguards. It helped me escape, but it leaves me paralyzed. I would have died if you weren't there to catch me. His breath caught. You risked dying like that? But why? I only risked it because I knew you wouldn't let me die. I knew you'd be there to catch me. I trust you, Naruto. The words came out barely above a whisper. Her stomach was in knots. To admit something like this was unlike her, and to actually mean every word she said was a hard pill to swallow. She forced her eyes back on him. She couldn't show him her fear. His eyes widened at her, his eyebrows subtly twitching as he processed what she said to him. Then, he slowly closed his eyes, drawing in a deep breath. His shoulder relaxed under her hand. A soft smile spread across his lips as he locked eyes with her again. You mean that? His voice was quiet, almost disbelieving. I do. He folded his hands behind his head, his smile widening. All right. If that's the case, then I'm a really amazing bodyguard after all. Despite everything, Katona smiled back at him. His determination was admirable. It was exactly what made him a great bodyguard. And exactly what made it so dangerous for him to be around her. Katona paused for a few moments, letting herself sink into the strange comfort of his presence. He leaned back, resting his elbows on the branch behind him, his smile settling into something easy and content. Her stomach twisted. She was about to ruin this. Katona pushed aside the warmth inside her. I'm going to interrogate the enemy, she said, her tone serious. And I'm going to ask you to do something that seems counterintuitive, but please, you need to trust me on this. What is it? What do I need to do? Naruto sat up straighter, fist raised, eager. I'm up for anything. We can count on Mushoho and Toma to apprehend the guy and make sure he's not able to hurt anyone. Right. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to interrogate him. I need to get as much intel out of him as I possibly can so that we can find these missing shinobi. In order to do that, you need me to punch him? Give him no choice but to tell us everything? Naruto eagerly punched the air. What? No. Katona stared at him, puzzled. He dropped his fists, making a confused face. Then what is it? Just tell me already, Katona. I'll do whatever you need. Has anyone ever told you that you lack patience? She paused, then continued before he could answer. I need to make the enemy feel at ease with me. I need him to be able to let his guard down and give up information without realizing it. Naruto opened his mouth to say something, but Katona gave him a look that made it close back. I am going to interrogate him alone. So I can't say anything while you interrogate him, got it? He sharply nodded. No. I mean you need to leave, along with Mushoho and Toma. You can't be around at all. What? Are you serious? You want me to leave you alone with the enemy? I'm your bodyguard. I can't do that. Her chest tightened at the urgency in his voice. This was so much harder than it normally was. He was abnormally stubborn. She looked down at the bark she was subconsciously picking at, immediately stopping her movement. I understand that this is a lot to ask, but think about it. If the enemy sees 3 strong shinobi behind me, he's going to feel threatened the entire time. He won't let down his guard. However, if I'm the only one there, he won't be as concerned. He already knows he's stronger than me. Is there no other way? No way I can just be there to protect you just in case? Naruto. She softened her tone. You have to trust me on this. I know what I'm doing. I've done this many times and nothing bad has ever happened. The guy will be tied up. He won't be able to hurt me. But what if something happens? Naruto pleaded. Nothing will happen. I promise. He paused, conflict warring across his face, worry, frustration, fear. She could read each emotion clearly, but the intensity behind them didn't make sense. Why did asking this feel like she was hurting him? No. I can't. I won't just leave. Please, Naruto, Katona whispered. This is the only way. Do you trust me? Naruto paused again, brows furrowing. Yeah. I trust you. Then trust me when I say I'll be okay. Fine, he said finally. I don't like this. Not at all, but I'll do it. But if something does happen. Naruto. Katona placed her hand on his shoulder and gave a gentle squeeze. You don't need to worry. But still he mumbled. His shoulder was still tense beneath her palm. Naruto followed Mushoho through the forest, Katona close beside him. She walked with her usual steady pace, face expressionless. She didn't act like someone who was just nearly kidnapped, but the scrapes now covering her body told a different story. We secured him to a tree and searched him thoroughly. No weapons, Mushoho relayed. You're sure of it? Naruto asked, his heart rate rising as they drew closer to the enemy. Positive. Plus my insects drained his chakra, he responded. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. He wanted to trust her and stay out of the way, but his mind wouldn't stop thinking of the worst. She hadn't been able to escape from the enemy without his help. If the guy got a hold of her again. No weapons, huh? Interesting, Katona whispered as she stared straight ahead. The trees opened up to a small clearing. Inside, the enemy stood against a tree, apprehended by a thick rope. His hands were flattened against the tree with a thinner rope woven between each finger, keeping them separate. Toma approached the group, resting a hand on his hip. He's all yours, Katona. Wouldn't say a word to me. Katona nodded, staring firmly at the man. Naruto leaned toward Toma. Hey, why are his fingers like that? It's just a precaution. He won't even be able to form one-handed seals. A bit overkill if you ask me, but orders are orders. Naruto took in a long, deep breath. There's no way this guy could do anything to hurt her, right? He was getting nervous over nothing. Katona didn't look scared at all. As Katona stepped away from him and closer to the enemy, Naruto's heart raced. He instinctively followed after her, positioning himself with his arms stretched out in front of her. This guy looked tough and clearly, he really wanted to take Katona away. She needed him there to protect her. But her hand gently pulled his arm down as she stepped past Naruto, moving even closer to the enemy. Go continue the rest of the investigation where you left off, Katona ordered, keeping her eyes firmly on the enemy. Mushoho immediately turned, walking back into the thick of the forest. Toma turned his body, but kept his head facing Naruto, narrowing his eyes on him. Naruto shifted his focus between Katona and Toma, not wanting to leave but remembering the promise he made. Toma groaned, marching toward Naruto and forcefully grabbing his arm. Come on, he barked. As Toma pulled him away, Naruto anxiously looked back at Katona, who was already focused entirely on the enemy as if he'd never been there at all. We meet again, Katona chuckled as she took another step toward the enemy, trying to get close enough to covertly cast her genjutsu. His eyes widened before shifting to the ground, avoiding eye contact. She could see his shoulders tremble. Katona's genjutsu had the annoying prerequisite of requiring sustained eye contact, long enough to synchronize a set amount of her chakra into the enemy's subconscious. This was going to be a difficult interrogation if she'd already hit a hurdle. I mean you no harm. I just want to ask a few questions. Her voice was gentle, calm. She made an effort to wear an expression that conveyed warmth and non-aggression. Time to build trust. She took another step towards him, carefully monitoring his physical response. His eyes darted to the movement of her feet before returning to the ground directly below him. His breathing grew heavier. See? Look, I really mean it, Katona said as she unclipped her belt. She tossed aside every bag containing her weapons and supplies, then displayed her palms as she took another step toward him. His eyes flickered up at her for a brief moment. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. She sat on the ground, smoothing her skirt over her legs before folding her hands neatly in her lap. You don't look much older than me, so why would someone like you be trying to capture Leaf Shinobi? She looked up at him, trying to catch his eyes, but he was avoiding her. They sat in silence for several minutes while she waited to see if he'd answer or, better yet, look at her. He stayed quiet. You must be a shinobi too, huh? She chuckled. You've definitely been trained to make my job more difficult. Katona straightened her back. So you're on a mission right now. Is that right? His body wiggled under the rope as his eyes darted around the forest floor, still avoiding eye contact. Thought so, pretty terrible mission to be sent on, capturing someone? The boy flinched at her words, but his lips pressed into a tight line. No response. Katona exhaled slowly through her nose, adjusting her posture ever so slightly. I get it. I don't always agree with the morals of what I'm asked to do either. But that's the shinobi way, she scoffed, raising an eyebrow at him. He snickered slightly, but kept his eyes averted. You know, she said, her tone softening, I can tell you're not the kind who enjoys doing this. I think we're the same. Pragmatic, just doing what we need to do. It's a shame, really. Maybe we could have been friends if we didn't each have our own missions. Katona stood, watching as his eyes tracked her. The hint of a smile formed on his face. Katona smiled back, sympathetically, as she took another step closer to him. Her hand landed on his shoulder, which had since stopped trembling. Maybe we could be friends despite that, she said, locking eyes with him. Her chakra poured slowly through his eyes as she focused on the connection, maintaining her gentle smile even as the familiar pressure built behind her temples. His face softened, eyes dilating slightly, just enough to let her know it worked. Finally. Now for the hard part, using it efficiently. She could already feel the chakra settling into his subconscious, waiting for her control. Every word she spoke now would need to serve double duty, keeping him comfortable while steering his thoughts toward the information she needed. One wrong push and he'd realize something was off. Or worse, the chakra would run out before she got anything useful. Katona sat back on the ground and smoothed her skirt over her knees. She folded her hands into her lap again, taking a deep breath before looking back up at the enemy. Focus. Naruto, Mushoku, and Toma continued walking back toward the place where they found the missing shinobi's headband to look for more information. The further they got away from Katona and the enemy, the more anxiety Naruto felt about her safety. You're both okay with this? How can you just leave her with the enemy with no protection? Naruto suddenly barked, causing his two teammates to stop walking. She does this all the time. It's just how her interrogations work, Toma groaned before walking again. She could be in danger, and you wouldn't even know it. We need to get closer so we can back her up, Naruto argued. No, we are all staying right here so we don't interfere with the interrogation. That is our best chance at successfully completing our mission. If you want to be helpful, keep a lookout for any other enemies. It's possible this guy wasn't acting alone, Mushoku said. Other enemies? There's no way he was going to let her be out there alone now. Besides, Katona did say that he and Team Katona were on entirely different missions, right? He had a duty to complete his mission, and he wasn't going to let anything, or anyone, stop that. Not even her. Nature calls. Naruto laughed, waving at his teammates, as he leisurely walked a short distance away. Hiding behind a tree, he quickly held up a cross-hand sign, producing a single shadow clone. He sent his clone back to Mushoku and Toma while he set off towards Katona. Naruto walked as quietly as possible, hoping not to get caught sneaking off. His goal was to go watch over Katona without anyone even knowing what he did. He understood that the enemy absolutely could not notice his presence, and he didn't want to distract Katona during her interrogation, so his movements became even more discreet as he grew closer to the interrogation site. Once close enough, he walked up a tree and crouched on a branch, peering over the edge. He was up high enough so that he could see both Katona and the enemy, but he could easily hide from their view if they noticed anything. He strained to listen to Katona speak. She spoke so softly that it was difficult to make out her words from so far away. I just need to know a few things and then we can call it a truce. How about that? Katona smiled. His pupils dilated, the tiny shift she relied on to tell voluntary speech from involuntary. A truce? The hell does that mean? The enemy's thoughts leaked out of his mouth without him realizing. Katona thought carefully about her next words. She needed to be tactical. It was difficult to hold this genjutsu, weaving her chakra into his mind, while adjusting her interrogation strategy on the fly. She only had minutes before the chakra ran out, and the strain made back-to-back interrogations impossible. One shot, that's all she had. I have no interest in hurting you. Besides, we both already know you're stronger than me, she said, scratching the back of her neck. All I need to know is why you're capturing my comrades. Yeah, well, I'll never tell you, he blurted. Gotta stop talking. I see. Then I'll talk and you can listen, she sighed, looking down. Look, I know that you and someone else on your team are targeting me specifically. The other guy had a picture of me. I can't understand why someone like you would be after me. Did I do something wrong? Katona forced a few tears down her cheeks as she looked up at him with sad eyes. This would make it clear to her whether or not this guy had a heart at all. He averted his eyes from her, making a pained expression. No, you didn't do anything wrong. At least I don't think so. So stop crying, all right? He looked back at her, frowning. Why has she gotta make me feel bad? Perfect. Katona cried harder. I'm just so scared, she wailed, sobbing into her hands. I don't want to die. Please. Stop crying. His voice sounded desperate. Gah, she thinks we're killing the people we capture? How can I stop crying when I'm being targeted and you don't even have the decency to tell me why? Katona snapped. Just stop it, already. I'm the one tied up here, he growled. And I don't even have backup to come save me, I'm the one about to die. Naruto's eyes narrowed on Katona. This interrogation was really weird. The guy was talking funny and Katona was acting strangely emotional. Something was up, but he didn't quite know what. If you tell me what I need to know, I'll let you go before the others come back, Katona said, looking side to side. Naruto nearly fell out of the tree. She couldn't be serious about that, could she? It had to be some sort of trick. I shouldn't trust her, but if the others come back, I'm doomed. I can't take on 4 shinobi at once. Naruto raised an eyebrow. It almost sounded like the guy was having a conversation with himself. But Katona was right. He probably would have been too scared to talk if they all stayed with her. Fine, you don't want to talk. I'll just call for backup and we can take you back to the leaf. Let's just say my superiors aren't as gentle as I am, she said, starting to stand up. No. Wait. I didn't have a choice in this. You were just one of the targets in the file. Just let me go and I'll pretend I didn't see you, he pleaded. Maybe I can just lie to her, and then she'll release me. Think. Naruto scratched his cheek. Why would he admit to trying to lie like that? First, you need to tell me who you're targeting and why. Then I'll let you go. Katona sat back down, smoothing out her skirt. Okay, what's a lie? I can tell her we're only going after shinobi without families, but I can't tell her that. That'll give away too much. Naruto's heart sank. Shinobi without families? If they were targeting Katona, then she didn't have anyone either. The thought settled in his chest, much heavier than he expected. He knew what that was like, being alone. Coming home to an apartment with no one there to greet him, to wonder if he made it back safe. No one to care. Was she just as lonely as he was? He stared down at her through the leaves, something shifting in how he saw her. She understood what it felt like. That kind of loneliness. And he understood her now, too. But wait. The enemy was after shinobi without families. Why hadn't they tried to capture him? Maybe they were wrong about her. I'm waiting. Katona crossed her arms as if she were growing impatient, even though the guy hadn't stopped talking a single time. Yeah, we're going after shinobi, who are really smart, like you. He smiled proudly, nodding aggressively. Nice save. She'll totally buy that one. Oh, I see. Katona chuckled as if she were flattered. You want to use my intelligence for something? Naruto blinked. She really fell for that. Yeah? Exactly. He smiled. Phew, that was close. But why? I'm not really sure, honestly. My mission is to capture the targets, but I know nothing else. He sounded sincere as he spoke. Don't you feel like what you're doing is wrong, though? Capturing innocent people just because they're smart? I don't know, it's just my mission. I feel bad sometimes, but I know it's for the good of my people. His voice trailed off. Ever since these missions started, the village has become a lot safer. I guess that makes sense. I don't really like interrogating people either, but I do what I have to do for my village. We're both completely powerless, huh? She chuckled softly. Yeah, that's just the way this world works. I accept the missions I'm given to help my village. I'm not a criminal or anything. I can tell that you aren't just by talking to you. Naruto frowned, watching them. Katona really seemed to believe that. Even with this guy who just tried to kidnap her, she was treating him so kindly. Like a friend, not an enemy. She's actually kinda nice? The guy's voice was softer now, more relaxed. It's just such a shame that we can't just all talk and get along like we are now. I hate that people are automatically enemies with others for no good reason. Katona leaned back onto her hands. Maybe we could have been friends if we lived in the same village, just like you said before. So you were listening? Katona laughed, standing back up. I know your intentions were good, so I don't think you deserve to be treated as my enemy. I'm letting you go. Katona pulled a kunai from a pouch on the ground and gently sawed at the rope restraining him. Naruto contemplated jumping down from the tree at that very moment and tying him back up. He readied himself to attack. What was she thinking? Just letting him go like it was nothing. Had she forgotten that he just tried to capture her and do who knows what to her? His hands tensed on the branch. This felt wrong. He watched as Katona, kunai still in hand at her side, offered her free hand to help him up. The enemy grabbed her extended hand and pulled himself up. Then, in one swift motion, his other hand shot toward her kunai, and suddenly Katona collapsed forward over his shoulder. Naruto wasted no time springing into action. Let go of her, you bastard! Naruto shouted, punching the enemy in the face with his right arm and grabbing Katona around the waist with his left arm all at once. After landing such a strong hit, The enemy turned and quickly attempted to retreat. Naruto put Katona down and immediately ran after the enemy. He wouldn't let him get away again. He tried jumping towards the guy, who had just jumped up into the trees, but instead he fell back onto the ground after hitting something midair. What the? Let him go. Naruto spun around. Katona stood with both arms extended, palms out, creating some sort of barrier with her chakra. She was stopping him. Katona, what are you? Then he saw the blood. It soaked the bottom of her tank top, pooling onto the ground below her. Everything else around him disappeared. Katona! Naruto sprinted towards her as her arms dropped to her sides and she stumbled backward. He broke her fall, kneeling to the ground so that she could lean back against his chest. Her eyes were barely open and her breathing was fast and shallow. Damn it! I'm gonna get help. Hang in there. Naruto made the hand sign to make a single shadow clone, sending it to get help from Toma and Mushoho. He lifted the hem of Katona's shirt, revealing the wound. It didn't look good to him. There was a lot of blood. He ripped off another piece of his already torn t-shirt and pressed down firmly on the wound. Katona screamed out in pain. She grabbed his arm, digging her nails into his sleeve. Naruto awkwardly rubbed her arm with his other hand, trying to comfort her. It's gonna be okay. Just stay awake, Katona. Naruto was trying to stay calm, but he'd never been responsible for treating someone's wounds like this. Not was way out of his element. He had no clue how severe her injuries were, and whether he needed to be doing anything else. He felt tears well up in his eyes, but he choked them back with a gulp. He needed to stay calm. Naruto Katona looked up at him and said in a hushed voice. Yes, what is it, Katona? He continued rubbing her arm, trying to soothe her just as much as he was trying to soothe himself. You shouldn't be here. Her brows furrowed. Naruto's breath caught. Are you serious right now? Katona, you just got stabbed and the enemy almost captured you for the second time. I ordered you to stay away, she said between shaky breaths. So what? It's my mission to protect you, remember? You should be grateful that I was here because otherwise I don't understand how you can be mad at me at a time like this. Naruto, her voice cracked. You could have gotten hurt. You threw yourself at him without even thinking. What if, she cut herself off. Naruto could feel her breath coming faster under his hand. Tears began rapidly flowing down her cheeks. Naruto could feel her breathing quicken under his hand. She needed to calm down or she would pass out. Now wasn't the time to be arguing with her. It was still his duty to protect her, even if she was unappreciative of his help. He wrapped his left arm around her shoulders, squeezing tight on her upper arm. He pressed his cheek into the top of her head, the metal of her headband cold against his skin. His thumb reassuringly rubbed circles over her bare skin. Everything's okay, Katona. Toma and Mushoho are on the way. She took a deep breath. Naruto squeezed his eyes shut, holding her tight. He didn't know what else he could do. What happened? Toma questioned, giving Naruto an intense glance before kneeling adjacent to Katona. The enemy stabbed her in the stomach. Toma immediately got to work, assessing Katona's injuries. He used his medical ninjutsu to begin healing the internal wounds, keeping Naruto's hand in place to help stop the bleeding. But then he took off. We might be able to still find him if Mushoho and I. No, I already planted an insect on the enemy when we tied him up. We should let him get further away so that when we do track him, he will think he's lost us. Then, he might lead us somewhere important for our investigation. He won't do that if he knows we're on his tail. Mushoho interrupted. Record the location and return to the village, Katona added between sharp breaths. Katona writhed in pain from the feeling of Toma's ninjutsu, uncontrollably thrashing about. Toma removed Naruto's hand from her wound and continued treatment. Toma! Aren't you supposed to be healing her? You're just hurting her more. Naruto yelled. Just hold her still and shut up. Mushoho, hold down her hips. She's moving too much. Toma ordered. Naruto groaned and wrapped his newly freed arm around her, too. She grabbed his arms with both her hands and buried her head into his right bicep. He squeezed tighter and continued gently rubbing her arm with his hand, hoping this brought her some kind of relief from the pain she was in. It was all up to Toma now. As he looked down at her, head pressed into his arm, fingers digging into his jacket sleeve, his mind replayed what she had just said before the others arrived. You could have gotten hurt. The word stuck with him, uncomfortable and confusing. He was on a mission to protect her. All that mattered was preventing her from getting hurt, even if it meant getting hurt himself. He knew that getting injured, or killed, was always a risk when taking a bodyguard mission. She shouldn't be concerned at all about him getting hurt. But the way she'd said it, the panic, the tears, it bothered him more than he wanted to admit. It didn't make sense. She'll be okay. Her injuries aren't life-threatening, but she should be taken to the hospital to get looked at to make sure I didn't miss anything. Naruto let out a sigh of relief and loosened his embrace. Katona removed her head from his arm and looked at Toma and Mushiho. Thanks. Katona removed Naruto's arms from around her and attempted to stand up on her feet. She barely lifted her upper body off of Naruto's chest before falling back onto him, his hands readily catching her by her shoulders to break the fall. You've lost a lot of blood and I know you don't even have any chakra left. You shouldn't try to walk right now or you'll just make things worse. Toma pointed an accusatory finger at her. She whimpered. Naruto, take her back to the village, Mushiho ordered. Toma and I will track the enemy. Got it, Naruto said before shifting his focus back to Katona. His voice softened. I'll carry you there. Don't worry. He leaned around to look at her face, but she turned away before he could catch her expression. Fine, she whispered. Naruto carefully shifted her into his arms, one hand under her knees, the other supporting her back. She wouldn't look at him. Naruto felt like a pack mule trudging down the forest path, only his cargo kept squirming and sighing every few minutes. Katona wasn't heavy, not really, but carrying her for hours like this made even him start to feel it. Both their backpacks were slung over either shoulder, though hers was abnormally heavy. This was going to be a long walk. Toma had said she was stable, the wound was closed, the internal damage repaired. But she'd lost a lot of blood and used up too much chakra. The hospital visit was just a precaution, to make sure nothing was missed. Still, Naruto wasn't taking any chances. He shifted his grip under Katona's knees as she squirmed again. You're not planning to jump, are you? He muttered, pretending to scowl. Please, Katona said for what felt like the 100th time. I'm feeling much better now. You can stop carrying me. Naruto puffed his cheeks. No way. I already told you, you're not walking until I get you to the hospital. Katona let out a small, defeated whimper, sinking back into his arms. Her voice dropped to a quiet mutter. Turn left here, she pointed. The two of them fell into silence. Twigs crunched beneath Naruto's boots as they walked along the dirt path. The only other sound was the soft rustle of the forest around them. The serenity of being completely alone, knowing she was safe in his arms, was a welcome change after everything they had gone through on this mission. He glanced down again when he felt Katona's body jerk slightly. Her head slowly fell forward before snapping back, eyes wide. HM? You're tired from all this walking? Naruto teased. She looked up at him with sad eyes. Why are you trying to make me feel worse about this? Put me down. I'll walk myself. I was just kidding. Really? Naruto laughed nervously, shifting her weight. You look like you're about to fall asleep, that's all. I don't mind carrying you. I wasn't about to fall asleep. A small yawn escaped from her before she clamped her mouth shut. Yeah, sure, he laughed. Now stop trying to keep yourself awake and get some rest. You'll recover faster if you do. No, it wouldn't be fair for me to sleep while you do all the work. The least I can do is keep giving you directions. Heh, I've known the way back this whole time. Actually, you forgot to tell me to take several different turns while you were dozing off. Naruto chuckled. He caught a glimpse of Katona's cheeks turning pink before she quickly turned her head away, staring at the path ahead. You're saying I've been completely useless this whole time? Well, yes, sort of. Katona frowned, shifting her eyes from side to side. Katona, just go to sleep. I can manage from here and I'll wake you up if I need your help with anything. Okay? Naruto felt Katona's head repeatedly fall onto his shoulder before suddenly jerking away. This had been going on for about 30 minutes at this point. He was amazed that she was still trying to stay awake. So stubborn. Finally, her head settled on his shoulder, her breathing slowing into a steady rhythm. Naruto blinked, staring down at her face. She looked so different asleep, like she was completely at peace. She nuzzled her head into him, decreasing the distance between their faces. Even after such a strenuous mission, she smelled good, like strawberries. He didn't move for a few seconds, just standing there and staring like an idiot. Snap out of it, he muttered under his breath. He gulped and started walking again, softer now, careful not to wake her. By the time the sun began to set, Naruto stepped off the trail and into a clearing concealed by a canopy of trees, just the right size for the two of them. He laid Katona gently on the ground and lifted her head to place a pillow underneath. She stayed fast asleep through all his movements. Guess you really were tired, he whispered. He got straight to work, quietly setting up camp with a small fire pit. One shadow clone went to catch fish while another gathered wood and water. Naruto himself stayed by Katona's side. He wouldn't leave her again. When the food was ready, the clones vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving him alone with only the sound of crackling fire and Katona's soft breathing next to him. Naruto gave her shoulder a soft tap. Hey! Dinner time. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed at first, then focused on him. He helped her sit up, using his knee as support behind her back. You made food? She asked groggily. Yup. Sure did. He held out 2 fish on sticks. But you said you'd wake me up if you needed help. Nah, I didn't need any help, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Besides, I wanted you to get some more rest. He handed Katona one of the sticks before taking a big bite of his own fish. It's delicious. Have some before it gets cold. Katona took a small bite. Naruto raised his eyebrows at her, waiting for her response. She chuckled at him, covering her mouth with her hand as she chewed ever so slowly. Finally, she swallowed. It's very tasty, she declared. All right. Naruto exclaimed. They laughed together and, for that moment, Naruto forgot they were even on a mission. He only felt the warm comfort of spending time with an old friend. Despite the numb pain in her stomach, Katona felt strangely relaxed. As she slowly finished her portion of food, Naruto talked endlessly to fill the quiet of the evening. She had never laughed so much with someone, and on a mission at that. She still couldn't quite understand him. He was loud, impulsive, and childish. But in moments like this, there was something disarmingly gentle about him. Katona pulled the last chunk of meat off the bone with her teeth, savoring the last bite. Naruto quickly whisked away the stick, handing her his water canteen in its place. She took a sip. How are you feeling now? He asked. His voice was softer than usual as he looked at her with deep concern in his eyes. I feel a lot better, she admitted, averting her eyes. Thanks for doing all this. Naruto smiled, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. Good, he whispered. And your arm? Is it okay after having to carry me like that? Naruto chuckled. I told you I heal fast, didn't I? Doesn't hurt one bit. Katona smiled, then looked down, noticing that her shirt had dried blood staining the hem. Would you mind helping me find a nearby river? I'd like to wash this. Naruto waved his hands frantically. No way. You're staying right here. I'll handle it. He formed a hand seal, and another him appeared beside the fire, a shadow clone that waved cheerfully. Well, he will. Katona raised a brow. You're going to make your clone wash my clothes? Yup. And he's not gonna complain either. She sighed. Thanks, but I'd rather do it myself. Your mother probably still does your laundry, huh? The air shifted. Naruto froze mid-motion, his grin faltering. I never knew my mom, he said quietly. Or my dad. Katona's eyes widened. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Nah, it's okay, he interrupted quickly, scratching his cheek. I've been alone my whole life, so I kinda got used to doing stuff myself. Laundry included. I'm pretty good at getting blood out of clothes. He laughed lightly, but it wasn't the same laugh she had heard before. You're alone? She asked hesitantly. Yeah, he said. Guess I've always been. Katona lowered her gaze. I see. A strange ache formed in her chest. She had been alone for years, too, but hearing him offer that information to her without hesitation felt foreign to her. Not even those closest to her knew anything that personal about her, and yet, Naruto was able to share one of her same struggles to a stranger. And while smiling. Was it because he trusted her? Katona's stomach twisted. This wasn't right. Naruto looked at her curiously. What about you? That guy you interrogated said something about people without families. Is that true? You don't have one either? Katona hesitated. The truth felt heavy in her throat, but lying felt worse. Not really, she finally said. I've been on my own in the village for a while now. Oh. Naruto looked down, his expression soft. I know how that feels. The two sat in silence, both staring down at the ground in connected thought. They were the same, yet so different. She had so much taken from her over the years, but Naruto had nothing at all from the start. He never even met his parents. She wondered if that would be preferable to what she was facing now. Katona, Naruto started, breaking the silence. Why are you alone? Katona opened her mouth, almost telling him everything. But she couldn't do that. She pulled her knees closer, suddenly uncomfortable with how exposed she felt. I'm sorry, but I don't really like talking about that kind of thing. She shouldn't be talking to him like this at all. Every word felt like another layer of manipulation, even though she wasn't trying to manipulate him anymore. The trust he felt was built on deceit, at least partially. It wasn't fair to him. She fought back the urge to ask him more questions and hoped he would stop asking her questions, knowing she wouldn't be able to stop herself from answering again. She wouldn't be able to lie to him again. Naruto immediately waved his hands. No, it's fine. Forget I asked? She looked around the camp, trying to change the subject to something lighter. Naruto's shadow clone stood leaned against a tree, yawning. Right, she had forgotten about that. Katona began to pull up on the hem of her bloody shirt. Both Narutos immediately turned away with panic yelps. The real Naruto pulled his hand away from Katona's shoulder, covering his eyes with it. What the hell, Katona? The real one blurted. You're really taking that off in front of me? Huh. I have to take it off if you're going to wash it for me, right? She gently pushed the top into his hands. But do you really think you should be getting naked in front of me? Seriously. Maybe you lost too much blood because you're acting crazy. Naked? Katona paused for a moment. Naruto. I have another shirt on. You can open your eyes. They both turned back hesitantly, staring at her in her white undershirt. Katona looked down to see the lace of her bra peeking out, and immediately yanked the shirt up to cover it. Haha, yeah, my clone take care of that now, he stammered, face practically glowing red. Where is my backpack? Katona tried to shift the attention back to the task at hand. Naruto awkwardly handed it to her. She unzipped it and pulled out an entire box of laundry detergent. Gah! No wonder your backpack was so heavy. You choose to pack a whole box of heavy soap, but you refuse to bring a jacket? Naruto grumbled, passing the detergent to his clone, who disappeared into the trees. Well, as it turns out, I actually needed the soap, but I didn't need a jacket. They sat in silence, Katona still leaning back against Naruto's knee. Her face tensed as if she were in deep thought while she stared into the fire. Naruto tried not to look at her again, though he could feel his gaze slipping toward the white bandages around her stomach. Katona, why did you let that guy go? She went very still. For a moment, she didn't answer at all, just continued staring ahead with wide eyes. Her fingers moved to the edge of her bandages, tracing them over and over. Letting him go was always the plan, she said slowly, carefully. Mushoho always plants an insect so we can track the enemy later. Naruto blinked. Wait, so everyone knew you would do that but me? Sort of. They expected me to let him free, but what I did wasn't our standard procedure. She let out a slow breath. I should have called for backup first, but I genuinely believed he wouldn't hurt me. That part was naive. There was no emotion in her voice. Every word she said sounded like she was just relaying a report that had nothing to do with her. You're lucky I was there because… I know. She cut him off with a whisper, looking at the ground. And, thank you. For being there. Her face twisted into something he couldn't quite recognize. She really didn't make a whole lot of sense. Earlier, she yelled at him for being there and now, she was thanking him. Oddly enough, it seemed like she meant what she said both times. Naruto gave her a pat on her shoulder, a small smile spreading across his face. What kind of bodyguard would I be if I just let you be alone like that? She didn't say anything, but her head hung down and she pulled her knees closer to her chest. For a while, they sat in silence. He thought about everything that happened during their mission. Everything that happened during her interrogation. Nothing she did made sense, but he wanted to understand. So you really meant it when you told that guy you don't consider him your enemy? Katona paused, as if contemplating something. Then she met his eyes steadily. Yes. I don't see any of them as enemies. Naruto shook his head. How can you say that? He stabbed you. And he tried to kidnap you. He was only doing what he thought he needed to do for his village, she replied, shaking her head. Don't forget, we also captured him, and you attacked him in retaliation. I suppose that gives him good reason to see us as his enemies. Are we bad people because of that? Naruto frowned, his brows furrowed in confusion. That's different though. He went after you first. I know, Katona said. But think about it, Naruto. Every time shinobi fight, both sides believe they're right. Both think they're protecting someone, or doing what's best for their home. If I start calling everyone who hurts me an enemy, a bad person, merely because they hurt me, then I would be a hypocrite. Her gaze shifted down, her fingers absently brushing the bandages on her stomach. Good people can do bad things, she murmured. That's what I believe. Naruto froze. Those words hit him harder than he expected. Good people can do bad things. His mind flashed back to seeing Sasuke last week. He was prepared to kill Naruto that day, sword drawn with no signs of restraint. He didn't seem to care at all about him, or Sakura, or anything but his need for revenge. Yeah, Naruto said quietly. I think I get that. Katona looked up, surprised. There's this friend of mine, he went on, staring into the fire. Sasuke. He's done a lot of bad things on a path of vengeance. Left the village. Hurt people. Even tried to kill me. But no matter what, I just can't think of him as a bad person. I still believe I can bring him back. Everyone thinks I'm stupid for that, but I just know there's still good in him. Katona nodded along, but didn't look at him. When she didn't say anything for a while, Naruto assumed she hadn't been listening at all. But after several minutes, she broke the silence. What was he like? Katona whispered hesitantly. Before he left. He was kind of a jerk, honestly, Naruto laughed. But he was my rival. And my friend. He pushed me to get stronger. He poked at the fire. He saved my life more than once. Katona nodded slowly, like she was filing this information away somewhere important. You know your friend, she finally said, her tone gentle. You believe he has the capacity to be good, even if he's lost right now. That's not stupid. Naruto blinked, taken aback. Thanks, he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck again. Something warm stirred in his chest. This was the kind of reassurance he hadn't realized he'd been needing. His mind had been all over the place since his last encounter with Sasuke. He wavered between feeling confident that he would bring him back and feeling way too weak for that to even be a possibility. But Katona was right. Sasuke did have the capacity to be good. He needed to keep reminding himself of that and continue fighting for his friend to come home. They sat like that for a while. Not talking, just existing in the quiet. The shared silence was oddly comforting. Do you ever feel angry at him? Katona asked suddenly. Naruto looked up. At Sasuke? Yeah. For leaving you behind. For hurting you. He paused. All the time. But I also know just how much pain he's in. He's had a hard life and is fighting to handle it all on his own. Katona nodded slowly. Enough pain can make anyone do bad things, right? She asked so quietly Naruto could barely hear her. It was as if she were talking to herself. The fire crackled softly between them. Naruto didn't answer right away. He just poked at the ash in the fire with a stick. Yeah, he said finally. But I think if someone's willing to see the good in them anyway, that's what can pull him back. Katona softly gasped before turning her head towards him, her lips curling into a faint smile. I think you're right. Naruto smiled back, letting the silence take over them again. He continued prodding at the fire with his stick, hoping it was enough to keep Katona warm as the air chilled. She looked calmer now, though her eyes were still distant in that thoughtful way she always had. He wondered what she was thinking right now. It was as if there was a wall between them, the way she acted so secretive and strange. But at the same time, he felt close to her. Not just physically close, though she was still leaning on his knee, but emotionally. Realizing that she, too, was alone made everything click for Naruto. They were connected. Katona met his gaze for a moment before reaching back into her backpack. She pulled out a small paper bag. Here, she said. Naruto tilted his head. What's that? She pulled a single cookie from the bag and split it into two, handing one half to Naruto before tucking the bag back into her backpack. I always bring cookies with me on missions. It's my secret, she said, taking a small bite. Naruto grinned wide, taking a big bite of his half. Hey! This is delicious! You made this yourself? Katona smiled. I did. Man, you're amazing! This is the best cookie I've ever tasted. As he polished off the rest of his cookie, he watched Katona's eyelids droop. Should we get going then? Her voice was barely audible. I think you should rest some more, Naruto said softly, removing his knee from her back so she could lie back down. I'll keep watch. Katona shook her head, still sitting up. All I did was sleep all day. You should be the one sleeping. You must be tired. I can keep watch. Naruto chuckled to himself and pushed her down on her back so that her head rested on the pillow. Sleep. She frowned at him, but eventually her eyes closed and didn't open back up. Naruto leaned back on his hands next to her, gazing at the glimpses of starlight through the branches above them. Good people can do bad things, he whispered to himself. Naruto looked over at Katona. Her hair fell gently across her face as she slept. The smallest smile tugged at his lips at the sight of goosebumps forming on her arms. He unzipped his jacket and laid it gently over her body. She'd be mad that he did this, but he didn't care. Katona? A hand gently shook her shoulder. Katona's eyes fluttered open. Naruto. Morning already? She was still so tired. Katona closed her eyes again, rolling over to get him to stop shaking her. She pulled her blanket over her eyes to block the light, and inhaled deeply through her nose. This didn't smell like her blanket. She opened her eyes back up, finding her face buried in Naruto's jacket. Katona's heart sank. He put this there. The more time she spent with Naruto, getting to know him, the less his constant presence seemed to bother her. In a way, he was comforting to be around. He was so open, inviting, her complete opposite, and, as much as she hated it, he made her feel safe. And not just from physical danger. She knew she should have stopped talking to him, but the conversation just flowed in a way that made her lose her sense of control. She found herself not wanting it to end, ignoring the voice in the back of her head telling her how wrong it was. But if he knew what she did to him. Though she had successfully gained his trust, she didn't consider the consequences beyond the mission. She'd never done this before, only ever pushed away, and they'd always left. It never failed her. But now, Naruto wouldn't stop doing nice things for her. Taking care of her. Opening up to her. Sacrificing his own comfort for her. Every kindness was a reminder of what she'd done to him. And he had no idea. Naruto shook her shoulder again. Wake up. We need to get you to the hospital still. Okay, is all she could manage to say. She pulled herself into a seated position, wincing at the ache in her stomach, not letting her ignore what happened. She really did get stabbed. And Naruto really did protect her. You alright? Naruto stared at her with wide eyes, crouched beside her. She smiled at him faintly before looking down at his jacket pulled around her hips. She didn't deserve this kindness. I'm okay, thank you for asking. She averted her eyes from him, focusing on a ladybug crawling on a blade of grass to distract from her thoughts. Naruto held out her clean tank top in front of her. Here's your shirt. If you want to cover back up. Katona's cheeks burned as she took the shirt out of his hand and quickly pulled it over her head. Right, thanks. Here's this back. She quickly folded up his jacket and passed it back to him, trying to control her embarrassment. Warm, huh? Naruto chuckled as he pushed his arms back through the sleeves, the bandage she'd wrapped still covering his wound. Katona looked back at the ladybug, unable to control the frown forming. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself not to cry. He had been injured because of her, and she still manipulated him. She manipulated him, and it was for nothing. He still chose to protect her. To put himself in danger for her. Before she could spiral further, Naruto scooped her up into his arms, both backpacks already in tow. Alright then. Let's go. We'll be back in the village in no time. Katona kept her eyes fixed ahead, grateful that they didn't have too far to travel before reaching the village that morning. A few hours, maybe? Still, she couldn't look at his face. Not when he was being so gentle with her, even more so than he had the day before. And then, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto rambled on, telling her stories about past missions and training, laughing the whole time. He was good at filling the silence with joy, she'd found. His voice was so cheerful and so completely unaware that the person in his arms had spent the entire mission systematically manipulating him. Katona's throat tightened. She nodded along, making small sounds of acknowledgement, but her guilt grew heavier with every word. You're a really good listener, Katona. Naruto smiled at her after finishing another story. I didn't believe Mushiho when he told me, but she should tell him. Letting this continue was wrong. But what was she supposed to say? I've been manipulating you the entire mission, but everything went wrong and I didn't want you to protect me, but you still did, and now you're being too nice, and I don't know what to do about it. She dug her nails into her palm. If she truly managed to make him care about her, telling him the truth would just hurt him. Maybe she could just let him be ignorantly happy, and, once he dropped her off at the hospital, she could just avoid him forever. Never speak to him again. Then she could spare him the pain. Are you in pain? You're making a face, Naruto said, slowing his pace slightly. Katona forced her face to relax. I'm okay, just a little tired. Naruto shifted her in his arms. You can go to sleep again. Like you did yesterday. He pulled her a little closer, and Katona's face heated. Part of her wanted to rest her head on his shoulder and enjoy the comfort, but she couldn't keep doing that. Instead, she kept her head up, facing forward. We're almost back. I think I can make it. Suit yourself, he said and began telling another story. And Katona listened. The late morning light bounced off the white walls, white curtains, and white bed in her recovery room. Everything was so blank around her, and yet, her mind had never been filled with so many thoughts. Katona sat up in her bed, for still attached to her wrist, and began writing out the mission report. The facts were simple. The enemy's tactics, their targets, and the pattern of disappearances all came together cleanly on the page. But when she reached the section about Naruto, her pen hovered. She had no problem writing about herself, or even her failures. Not every mission could go exactly as planned. But assessing Naruto meant looking too closely at what had happened, at what she'd done. Normally, she would write that her bodyguards followed her orders exactly as instructed, because they did. And if anyone were to question them leaving Katona alone, they wouldn't be blamed. But she couldn't do that here. Naruto didn't follow orders. But writing that wouldn't have been an accurate assessment of what actually happened. Her fingers tightened around the pen until her knuckles whitened. How's the hospital treating you? Toma's voice sounded as he stood at the foot of Katona's bed. It's not too bad, Katona said, putting her pen down. I'll be released soon enough. That's good to hear, Mushiho smiled. We were able to track the enemy back to a small village in the Land of Fire. It looked pretty rough. All boarded up and stuff, Toma added, pulling a folded paper from his vest and handing it to her. Mark the coordinates right here. Katona exhaled. Thank you both. I'm just glad this all wasn't for nothing. And Naruto? He's probably still recovering from having to haul your ass all the way home, huh? You really put him through the ringer with that. Toma laughed. Katona's chest tightened. Yeah, I did, she admitted quietly. She looked down at her unfinished report, ready to fill in the blanks. Could you please deliver the mission report to Lady Tsunade? I'm almost done with it. The next day, Naruto couldn't stop thinking about the mission. About Katona. About what happened. He picked up an apple from a fruit stand on his way to the hospital. He remembered Sakura bringing Sasuke apples when he was in the hospital. Maybe Katona would like something like that. He didn't really know what else to do. The recovery ward was quiet, white curtains separating the beds. He found her propped up against a pillow, book in hand. Her hair was perfectly neat, and the marks and bruises on her body were mostly faded or covered by her clothing, long sleeves, this time. If he hadn't seen her wound himself, he'd think she'd never been injured in the first place. But the bedside table beside her was bare. No flowers. No notes. Something twisted in his stomach. Naruto waved a shiny, red apple at her. Got this for ya. You said you like the fresh stuff, right? She looked up from her book, startled. Oh, thank you? What are you doing here? I came to see how you were doing, Naruto said, looking at the apple in his hand. Want me to cut this up for you? I saw someone do that before, so. That's all right. Naruto paused, but smiled. He placed the apple on her bedside table and pulled up a chair to sit next to her bed. Her eyes were wide, tracking his movements carefully. Are you feeling better? Yes. They're letting me out later today. That's great, Katona. Naruto grinned. You know, I was just thinking about how you got that guy to say so much to you. You made it look so easy. Now I see why Granny Tsunade wants you to be protected. You're amazing. Katona shook her head, scowling. It's not me they want protected, it's my ability. They think it has potential to become an asset to the Leaf. Ability? Staring down at her book, she explained her genjutsu, how it made thoughts leak out, how exhausting it was to maintain, and how strategic she had to be to guide people's thoughts. It was perfect for covert intel gathering. Naruto listened, fascinated, thinking back to the weird things the guy she interrogated said to her. Those were his thoughts, and he had no idea she, and Naruto, could hear them. Wait a minute, have you ever used that on me? The color drained from his face. He wouldn't be able to show his face again if she'd heard some of his thoughts. I would never do something like that to a comrade, Katona said before pausing, eyebrows furrowed. She fidgeted with the book in her hand, running the pages between her fingers. But there is something I need to tell you. Huh? What is it? I'm really sorry, but she paused again, her bottom lip quivering for a moment before pressing her lips together. I did something to you that I shouldn't have done. Naruto's heart dropped. He blinked at her, waiting for her to continue as he sat up straighter in the chair. Katona took a deep breath and looked him directly in the eyes. I manipulated you to gain your trust. Naruto's eyebrows wobbled as he shook his head. No. What are you talking about, Katona? His voice came out sharper than intended. After the first ambush, I started being nicer to you, mending your jacket, letting you walk next to me, a lot of things. I did all of it to gain your trust. She paused, and quickly added, actually, I was manipulating you from the start, but being mean wasn't working, so I tried a different approach. Katona shook her head. I wanted you to stop trying to protect me. And when pushing you away wasn't working, I thought I would try gaining your trust so that I could make you leave me alone. But no! That can't be true. You wouldn't do something like that. Naruto's hands gripped the edge of his chair. Sure, she wasn't all that nice, but she wasn't really a bad person. She couldn't be. Katona quickly wiped a stray tear falling from her eye. She looked down at the blanket covering her legs. It's true. I'm very sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. Naruto stared at her, his mind racing back through the mission. The way she'd suddenly started being nice after being cold all day. Mending his jacket. Bandaging his arm. Laughing about ramen. Blushing at him. Smiling at him. Teaching him how to read the evidence instead of just calling him an idiot. All those small moments that had made him think they were actually becoming friends. That he had earned her trust. So when he stopped himself and looked at the ground. His voice came out smaller than intended. All the nice things you did, was all of that just part of your plan? Katona's face crumpled. She brushed away the tear running down her cheek. Yes and no, she whispered. She opened and closed her mouth several times before continuing. Some things were unplanned and I just acted on instinct. I really did want to help you. I really did care that you were hurt. She took a shaky breath. But other things, I wouldn't have let myself do most of those things if I wasn't trying to gain your trust. I thought showing you that kindness would make you listen to me. So that I could make you stop putting yourself in danger for me. The words hit him like a punch in the gut. His chest felt hollow. But after I got stabbed, she continued. After I watched you protect me anyway, I couldn't keep doing that to you. So, everything by the campfire that night was just me. Not trying to make you hate me. Not trying to make you trust me. But how am I supposed to believe that now? Naruto's voice cracked. You just told me you were faking being nice to me. How do I know the campfire wasn't fake too? Because I would never tell someone what I told you, even if I was manipulating them. I told you that I'm alone here. Mashiho and Toma don't even know that. If they had asked me, I would have lied or avoided answering. I only told you because I really do trust you. If you really are alone like me, then you know exactly how this feels right now. He took a breath, steadying himself. I thought we were actually becoming friends. Because we're the same, you know? But now I don't know if any of that was real. It was real. She wiped another tear, pausing. My feelings were always real. I didn't fake kindness. I chose to show you what I actually felt. Everything was authentic. She took a shaky breath. I just weaponized it to control the situation. Naruto sank back into the chair, his anger wavering into something more painful. Confusion. Betrayal. So you did care, you just used it against me? To control me? Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. Naruto stood, walking to the window with his hands in his pockets. That's so messed up, Katona. I know. She paused. I didn't want you to get hurt because of me. But I hurt you anyway, didn't I? Naruto stayed silent for a while, watching the passers-by from the window. Yeah, he finally turned back to face her. And the campfire? You swear that was real? I swear. I realized how wrong I was when you had to carry me. Because of my own mistakes. She shook her head. Then why didn't you confess back then, huh? His eyes narrowed on her, but she didn't look back at him. I wasn't sure what to do. I always manipulated my bodyguards to make them hate me, and I always succeeded in making them leave me alone. But you wouldn't leave me alone no matter what I did to you. And as I got to know you better, I started liking spending time with you. I guess I was just being selfish. I didn't want that to end. But the guilt has been eating me alive. Naruto paused. Honestly, I don't know what to think about all this. He looked at her. But thank you for telling me the truth. You could have kept it a secret and I would have never known. He hoped that meant something. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I'd better get going. He moved toward the door, waving his hand in the air. See ya. Once Katona was released from the hospital later that afternoon, she made her way to Lady Tsunade's office. Team Katona and Naruto had been summoned for a mission debriefing. Katona stood next to Mushiho and Toma while Naruto stood on the opposite side of the room, as far from her as possible without being obvious about it. She dug her nails into her palms. Lady Tsunade sat behind her desk, a mission report open in front of her. I sent an Anbu team to infiltrate the village and they were successful, she began. All captured shinobi have been recovered. They were all unharmed. Katona's shoulders relaxed slightly. At least something good had come from all of this. The village you tracked was acting independently. They were capturing shinobi to strengthen their militia to defend against bandit raids. Tsunade's expression darkened. A desperate move by desperate people. What'll happen to the village now? Naruto asked. It's being discussed. We are considering tracking down the bandits and putting an end to this all. The village has very few shinobi, so they don't have the resources to take this on their own. Hence why they chose to capture shinobi in the first place. She pulled out a scroll, unrolling it on her desk. This is the target list we recovered. As suspected, they were specifically targeting shinobi without families, people they thought wouldn't be missed right away. Her eyes flicked to Katona, then to Naruto. Both of your names were on it. Katona's stomach dropped. She closed her eyes, unwilling to meet the inevitable stares from Mushiho and Toma, but she could still hear their light gasps. Now they would pity her. She couldn't stand it. Mine? Naruto sounded surprised. But they never tried to capture me. Katona's eyes popped open. Maybe that's why the enemy attacked you. All prior reports said they never engaged anyone but their target. And he didn't try to fight me or Toma at all when we encountered him as a team. He only approached you two, but we interpreted it as him approaching Katona, and Naruto just being nearby, Mushiho added. Realization spread over Naruto's face. He was saying weird stuff about another one. I didn't think he was talking about me. Katona's heart sank even more. She had left him alone as a target, pushed him away when he was in just as much danger as she was. He could have been captured, could have been hurt or worse, all because she was too busy trying to manipulate him into leaving her alone. In any case, the village leader is with Ibiki now, Tsunade continued. We'll find out more about their operation and the bandits. For now, consider the mission complete. She looked at Katona, then Naruto. And consider yourselves lucky that you didn't get captured. Katona nodded. She was lucky. Lucky that Naruto was her bodyguard and he didn't listen to her. Good work, all of you. Especially you, Katona. Your interrogation provided critical intelligence that made the rescue operation possible. Dismissed. Katona politely bowed, trying to ignore the twisting inside her stomach. I'll catch up with you guys outside, Naruto said as Katona, Mushiho, and Toma filed into the hallway. They walked out of the building in silence. Why didn't you tell us, Katona? Mushiho asked quietly. I was afraid to tell anyone, Katona said. But you have a family, we met them at the graduation ceremony, right? Toma looked confused. Yeah, you did. She took a deep breath. But, my grandparents died the night of our graduation. I've lived alone ever since. Katona Mushiho's voice was gentle. I'm sorry. We didn't know. It was a long time ago. Katona forced her voice to remain steady. We're a team, Toma said, less harsh than usual. You don't have to go through everything alone. Katona managed a small smile. Thank you. Both of you. Also, Mushiho said quietly, you should try giving your bodyguards a chance, too. Katona glanced back at the building where Naruto was still talking to Lady Tsunade. Her mistakes hurt him in ways she never expected. She wouldn't do that again to anyone. Somehow, she would change. I plan to. So are you going to beg me not to assign you to any more missions with Katona too? Lady Tsunade sighed as soon as Naruto stepped into her office. No, of course not, Granny. He paused, lowering his voice. I was actually going to ask you to put me on more missions with her. She did write a rare positive assessment of you. I guess you made an impression on her. Maybe she truly wasn't lying then. Maybe her feelings were real. Either way, now that he knew why she acted that way, he couldn't quit on her just yet. She hurt him, but there was also a pain within her that he recognized better than anyone else. For that reason, he still wanted to keep her safe and felt like he was truly the only shinobi who could do that. Katona needed a bodyguard who understood her and could anticipate when she would be putting herself in danger. If he had blindly listened to her and stayed away, she'd either be kidnapped or would have bled out in the forest. He wasn't sure if every bodyguard would have the guts to disregard her orders like he had, so it would be safer for everyone if he just continued to protect her. He could handle her. Very well then, she continued. I'll make note of it. Now go get some rest. Naruto waved goodbye and left the Hokage's office, looking around to see if the others had waited for him. He spotted them just outside the building, standing together in a triangle, and walked up to them. His conversation with Katona in the hospital earlier still weighed heavily on his heart. He was trying to understand why she did what she did, but it hurt nonetheless to be used like that. Hey guys, Naruto said, standing between Mushoku and Toma. Katona stood directly opposite him, shifting her eyes to the ground. The air felt heavy between everyone and Katona looked especially guilty. It was great to work with you, Naruto. Mushoku bowed his head slightly. I hope we get to work together again in the future. Before Naruto could respond, Toma interrupted. Yeah, same here. But listen, I've got to get home. I told my mom I'd come straight back and if... Toma! Mushoku scolded before sighing. I ought to get home, too. See you around. The two left, leaving Naruto alone with Katona again. They stood in awkward silence for a while, both staring at the ground. Naruto cleared his throat. Before he could say anything, Katona spoke. I'm sorry. Again. She looked at him for a moment, her eyes sad. I should get going too. Lunchtime, right? She forced a small chuckle. Yeah, okay. Sure, Naruto managed. He watched her walk away for a while, all by herself, to return to an empty home, and make herself lunch, all while her teammates go home to their families. Just like he did after missions. Just like he'd done his whole life. She'd manipulated him, yeah? But she had good intentions. And she told him the truth when she could have kept lying, when he would have kept unknowingly trusting her. She chose honesty anyway. That had to count for something. Damn it, he whispered to himself. Naruto turned on his heel, chasing after her. Once he caught up to her, he grabbed her arm. Katona, wait. She stopped, looking at him with wide, uncertain eyes. What you did was really messed up, he said bluntly. She flinched, her shoulders dropping slightly. But you said that good people can do bad things. You were talking about yourself, right? So I want to give you another chance. No, but how could you? She paused. After what I did, you should hate me. Maybe I should. Naruto shook his head. But I don't. He took a deep breath. If we're gonna try being friends, then you have to promise me you'll stop all that manipulation stuff. It has to be real. You have to be honest with me. Friends? Katona repeated, tilting her head. Yeah. Friends. Katona nodded. I promise. Honesty. Good. Naruto's expression lightened slightly, though not quite back to his usual brightness. Now come on. You told me we'd go to Ichiraka after the mission, right? Well, if I remember correctly, I said maybe not. What do you want right now? His voice softened. Katona looked up, locking eyes with him. She smiled softly, her cheeks turning a faint shade of pink. I want to go to Ichiraka with you. Katona fiddled with her fingers, following behind Naruto in silence as he led them through the village. She thought about turning around and running home, never speaking to him again. But every so often, he turned around to look at her, to make sure she was still there. Past his awkward smiles at her, she saw his uncertainty. The fierce determination that once flooded every muscle on his face was gone. At least, it was gone when he looked at her. She sped up to walk next to him, an arm's length away. Still keeping her distance, but, hopefully, he'd feel more certain that she was there to stay. That she wouldn't break his trust ever again. Honesty. That meant she needed to stop lying to herself, too. She felt the urge to run away, not because she didn't want to go to Ichiraka with Naruto, but because... I'm scared, she declared before she could stop herself from speaking. Her eyes immediately widened as she clamped her mouth shut. This was too honest. Naruto stopped walking and turned to face her. He paused for a moment. Yeah. I know. His eyes softened on her. And, thanks for actually saying it. Oh, sure. Katona matched his pace as they walked again, her heart still racing from the admission. Was this what she was supposed to be doing? Just saying how she felt without a filter? They turned a corner, still side by side. She examined Naruto's movements, his micro-expressions. If she could just analyze how each of her behaviors impacted him, she could figure out how to make him feel better faster. She could resolve the tension and feel in control again. But that would still be manipulation. No manipulation. Just act normal. The problem was, she had no idea how to do that right now. By the fire that night, just sitting alone with him, she felt strangely comfortable. His presence somehow brought her enough peace to slow her thoughts and just act. It was his earnestness, his kindness, his ability to be himself without caring what she thought that made her want to be that way, too. But now, he was different. He was guarded. And he had a good reason to be. Naruto held the curtain back at Ichiraku and stood, looking at Katona. She paused, waiting to follow him inside. You just gonna stand there? He waved her over. Go in. Katona awkwardly ducked into the small ramen stand beneath his hand, carefully avoiding touching him. She chose the stool closest to the wall, smoothing her skirt over her knees and sitting up straight. Welcome in, a cheerful man bellowed. I don't think I've ever seen you here. Please, take a menu. Naruto filed in behind her, settling onto the stool beside her with a wide smile. Naruto. Good to see you. It's been a few days, just get back from a mission? Naruto chuckled. You know it, this is Katona. It's her first time here. Naruto turned his head towards her, his smile faltering. This is Teuchi. He runs the place, he's the best. Oh, hello. It's very nice to meet you. Katona bowed her head slightly. I've known Naruto since he was a little kid graffitiing the Hokage stone faces. Teuchi let out a deep laugh, his hands on his belly. Katona began to laugh, but caught herself and pressed her lips together. Naruto leaned over the counter, pointing a finger at him, but both were still smiling at each other. Hey! Why'd you have to bring that up, old man? I don't do that anymore. Katona couldn't believe how personable Naruto was. His actions clearly weren't planned, but Teuchi seemed to like him a lot. There was something almost magnetic about the way he moved through the world, genuine and unguarded in a way she'd never managed to be. Well, Katona, Teuchi said between chuckles. What'll you have today? Katona startled, glancing down at the menu in front of her. What do you recommend? My favorite is the miso with pork, but everything is great, Naruto answered instead of Teuchi, his voice lower. His wide grin had fallen to a subtle smile again as he looked at her. Katona's heart sank. I'll take your recommendation, then. His smile widened just a little bit. Something warm spread inside her chest. Maybe it was relief, or even hope. It startled her a little, but she couldn't help but to smile back. You won't regret it, he said before calling out to Teuchi, who had turned around to prepare some ingredients. 2 large miso bowls with extra pork, please. Already on it, Teuchi said. So Katona filled the silence. Did you really, vandalize the Hokage rock? She couldn't contain her curiosity. And she was supposed to be honest. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, I did. But I don't do that anymore. It was only for attention. It was stupid. Then you've always had problems following rules, huh? She teased, hoping it would land. Naruto's eyes widened, but his mouth quickly followed in an open smile. I guess you could say that, he chuckled. Before she could say anything else, Teuchi set 2 steaming bowls of ramen in front of them. The rich aroma of miso broth filled the small space between them. Enjoy, you too. Katona broke apart her chopsticks, examining the bowl. She appreciated the precision of the placement of meat, eggs, and other toppings. It was something that clearly took a lot of effort, yet Teuchi was able to make it look effortless. Was it practice or just natural talent? Naruto, she said, still staring into her bowl. Is it easy for you to just be yourself around people? He finished slurping his bite of noodles, his face contorting into a look of confusion. Yeah, I guess. He picked up a piece of pork with his chopsticks. I mean, what's the point in pretending to be someone you're not? People are either gonna like you or they're not, you know? Katona looked down. She could analyze people all day and, with one notable exception, act in a way to guide their thoughts and behavior to her will. She knew how to be warm, patient, and kind. She knew how to be authoritative, analytical, and pragmatic. She even knew how to be cold, calculating, and rude. But she didn't know how to be fully herself all the time. She didn't know how to stop thinking and just act. Eat up, Naruto said. Before it gets cold. Katona gave him a smile and picked up a small portion of noodles. She instinctively blew on them, though they had certainly already cooled off. As she took her first bite, Naruto picked up his bowl and gulped down the broth. He slammed the bowl on the table. So good. Naruto glanced at Katona's bowl, then at her slowly chewing. Geez, you eat slow. You like it? It's very tasty, Katona hesitated, trying to force herself to speak her thoughts without additional filters. Yum! The noodles have the right amount of chewiness, and the broth is flavorful, and I can tell that a lot of time and effort went into perfecting this recipe and She clamped her mouth shut, feeling her cheeks burn. She was just rambling now, not saying anything particularly useful or interesting. She hesitantly glanced over at Naruto. His elbow rested on the counter, holding up his head in his hand. He looked at her with an amused smile. Tucci turned his head to look briefly, smiling. Yeah, I think so too. I told you they were the best. He pointed at her bowl. Try the pork. Oh, sure. Katona took a bite of the pork, allowing her smile to show fully. It's delicious. Good. Now focus on eating or else we'll be here all night. Something about his tone made her relax slightly. Enough to chuckle freely before taking another bite. After eating in silence, Katona finally finished her meal. Tucci approached them and handed Naruto the check. I like this one, bring her back sometime. He turned to Katona. Thanks for the compliments. Katona's face heated again. He didn't think she was being weird, saying all that? Katona leaned over to look at the check, her shoulder nearly brushing Naruto's. How much is it? Naruto was already pulling money from his froggy wallet. He smiled faintly. I got it. Her hand closed over his before she could think, stopping the money from falling on the counter. His hand was warm and calloused from training. She felt him tense at her touch and immediately released, jerking her hand back to the counter in front of her. Sorry, she blurted. Please let me pay. It's the least I can do. Naruto dropped his money back into his wallet and slid the check to Katona. His ears had turned slightly pink. Alright, fine. But next time, I'll pay. Next time? Katona looked at him with wide eyes. Yeah, you liked it here, right? Katona gave him a tentative smile, dropping money on the counter. Yes, I did very much. And, I look forward to coming back. She couldn't understand what she did to earn that offer. She had just been awkward and weird the whole time. If she acted this way during an interrogation, there's no way she would accomplish anything. So what was making this work? Naruto slid off his stool and held the curtain up again. Bye, Tucci. As Katona ducked beneath, she decided to turn around and wave at the last second, accidentally bumping her arm into Naruto's chest. She immediately jumped backward, out of the ramen shop. Sorry. I didn't mean to touch. Don't worry about it. Naruto shoved his hands in his pockets, staring awkwardly at the ground as they both stood right outside of Ichiraku. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the street, the village still bustling around them. So Naruto shifted his weight, looking up for a brief moment. That wasn't so bad, right? Katona nodded, her hands clasped in front of her torso. No. It was nice. She paused and, with a deep breath, she forced her unspoken thoughts out. It was also scary and I'm still nervous and I know I'm being selfish, but I enjoyed your company and I'm thankful that you invited me, especially after. Me too. Naruto glanced at her for a second before shifting his eyes to the ground. I still feel weird about everything, but I can tell you're trying and that means a lot. I am, she whispered. Good, he smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. We have the rest of the day off. Did you, have any plans? Oh, I was just gonna go home and read probably. Naruto shifted his weight from foot to foot. We could walk around the village for a bit, he shrugged, his voice quieter now. You know, if you want. Katona hesitated, then gave a small nod. I'd like that. They started walking with no particular destination. Past all the people just going about their day carefree. Children ran between them, chasing each other through the streets. Naruto took a step closer to her. Close enough so nothing could get between them again. It's a really nice day, Naruto said suddenly, then immediately winced as if he'd said something stupid. But Katona looked up at the golden sky, and a faint smile touched her lips. It is. They continued walking in silence, passing a group of academy students practicing their kunai throws, their instructor calling out corrections. Katona watched them as they walked past, thinking back to her time there. How different things were, for better or for worse. When she looked back, Naruto was already looking at her. He quickly averted his eyes when she met his gaze. They walked in silence for a few more minutes, the village sounds fading as they moved toward the quieter residential areas. Can I ask you something? The question was out before Naruto could second-guess it. Of course. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to organize his thoughts. This had been bugging him since the hospital, but that conversation was too intense. Now, maybe he could actually understand. Why did you stop? I mean, he struggled. You said you stopped manipulating me after you got injured. But why did you stop with me and not the others? Katona nodded, that thoughtful expression he'd come to know forming on her face as they slowed their pace. They reached a small bridge overlooking one of the village streams. Without discussing it, they both stopped, drawn to the peaceful sound of water flowing beneath them. Naruto leaned one elbow against the wooden railing so that he could still face Katona. She stood tall, delicately wrapped both her hands around the railing, and stared forward. He watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she breathed. Finally, she took a deep breath and looked at him. I wanted to make you stop protecting me so that you wouldn't get hurt, she said. I thought the means justified the end, but what I did was worse. Yeah, I know that part. I was trying to take away your choice, but I realized. She paused, her hand moving to her stomach where she'd been stabbed. Naruto remembered seeing blood drip from her shirt. Remembered the weight of her in his arms as he carried her to the hospital. His chest tightened. I realized that a person's decision to protect someone is their decision to make. You chose to protect me, and I was trying to manipulate you into choosing something else. Naruto shifted his body, leaning both elbows on the railing. He looked at the moving water, processing her words. So you stopped because you felt bad? No. She gripped the railing tighter, and he saw her knuckles turn white next to his elbow. I felt guilty the whole time, with you and with all the others. But guilt alone never stopped me before because I thought it was worth it. She inhaled deeply and continued. I stopped because you made me realize I was wrong. My manipulation always worked on my other bodyguards. I got them all to hate me and stop caring about protecting me, and, in turn, they didn't get hurt. He watched her profile as she stared down at the water, tears forming in her eyes. She really had been trying to protect him, in her own messed up way. But her voice dropped, and he had to lean in slightly to hear her. I couldn't break you. You got injured because of me, and that scared me. His arm had healed quickly, it always did. Her patching him up helped a lot too. He would never forget the way her fingers trembled as she wrapped the bandages around his arm. For someone normally so restrained, he had been surprised by her sudden display of emotion. He had thought she was just worried about his injury, not that she had actually been scared. He caught a glimpse of her fingers trembling on the railing. She was scared now, too. And then I trusted you to catch me, to save me, and that scared me even more. She took a shaky breath. Your resolve scared me. My resolve scared you? The words came out more surprised than he intended. She turned to look at him, still standing straight up. Her eyes were so open, so honest, that something in his chest squeezed. Naruto stood up, wrapping his own fingers around the railing. I knew your resolve would make you keep choosing to protect me no matter how dangerous it was. So I thought the only way to keep you safe was to take away your choice. To convince you to leave me alone. To keep you away from me so that I could just protect myself and you wouldn't get hurt from me. The breeze picked up again, and he watched her tuck her hair behind her ear. When she lowered her hand back to the railing, it landed closer to his. He squeezed the railing, feeling the sharp corners press into his fingers. But I was wrong in so many ways. I underestimated your resolve. I don't think there's anything I could do to ever control you. Something in Naruto's chest expanded at that. She was right, nobody could make him stop protecting someone he cared about. It was just who he was. And, I thought controlling you would keep you from getting hurt, but I just managed to hurt you in a different way. She finally looked at him again. And I underestimated how much I needed your help. You proved that I was wrong about everything. Naruto shifted again, folding his arms on the railing. His elbow grazed her fingers, just barely. He rested his chin against his hand, watching the water ripple from fish jumping to the surface. Controlling people, even if you think you have good reasons, isn't right, she continued, keeping her hand still beneath his elbow. I can't handle people getting hurt trying to protect me. I still can't. Her voice dropped. But trying to control you to prevent that, it's like I didn't trust you to make your own decisions. Like I thought I knew better than you what risks you should take. Oh. Naruto let that sink in. He'd been so focused on the manipulation itself that he hadn't really thought about what it meant. She hadn't trusted him to choose. And for someone like him, someone who'd spent his whole life trying to prove himself, that cut deeper than he'd realized. Yeah, he said softly. That would have made me pretty mad if I'd realized it. I know. Her hands clenched the railing tighter. I feel awful that I hurt you. But I stopped because you made me confront the fact that what I was doing was wrong. Not just because I felt guilty. They stood there in silence, neither moving a muscle, just watching the water flow beneath them. The afternoon sun was starting to sink lower, bouncing off the water. This was nice. Peaceful. Even with the heavy conversation, even with the lingering hurt, there was something good about being here with her. He thought about Sasuke. About how he'd hurt Naruto, tried to kill him, even, but Naruto still believed there was good in him. Still wanted to bring him back. If he could forgive Sasuke for that, he could forgive Katona for this. He could see that there was good in her. And she was actually trying. Really trying. Naruto shifted beside her, the wood creaking under his weight as he stood up straight. Katona? She opened her eyes, he hadn't even realized she'd closed them, and looked at him. You messed up, he said, because it was important for them both to be honest. A lot. Her face fell slightly. I know. But he dragged his hand through his hair. I've been hurt before. By a lot of people. And I've forgiven a lot of them, too. Her fingers loosened their death grip on the railing. And you're trying, he continued, his voice quiet but steady. Really trying. I can see that. I don't know how to be a good friend yet, she admitted. But I want to learn. I want to be the friend you deserve. That caught him off guard. Heat crept up his neck, and he felt his ears go warm. Nobody had ever said anything like that to him before, that they wanted to be better for him. Yeah, he said softly. Me too. And he meant it. He wanted to be the kind of friend she deserved, too. Someone who wouldn't give up on her. Someone who'd believe in her even when she didn't believe in herself. The way Iruka-sensei had believed in him. The breeze rustled through the nearby trees, and for a moment they just stood there, looking at each other. Something passed between them that Naruto couldn't quite name but felt down to his bones. Katona smiled at him briefly before folding her arms against the railing and letting her head rest on her hand. They stayed like that for a long while, just silently watching the water flow beneath them. He bumped his elbow lightly against hers, a gentle nudge as he turned to face her more fully. Hey, he said, a small grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. Let's keep the heavy stuff for another day, okay? We're supposed to be enjoying the rest of our time off. Her eyes widened slightly, and he saw relief flash across her face. Right. Of course. He stepped back from the railing and tilted his head toward the street. Come on. Walk with me a little longer. There was a pause, just a heartbeat, where he wondered if she'd say no. If this was too much, too soon. But when she looked up at him, there was a small smile on her face. Yes, she answered. I'd like that. Naruto's smile widened. But I just got back from an escort mission. Naruto groaned, throwing his head back for added effect. Lady Tsunade ignored him, her brows furrowed over the paperwork on her desk. Morning light filtered through the windows. It's important work, Naruto, Sakura said, though even she looked disappointed. After facing Orochimaru, back-to-back escort missions felt like a step backward. I don't have time to argue today. Tsunade flashed her eyes at Naruto before looking back down. The client is waiting for you, so the three of you need to go. Now. I for one appreciate a simple mission, Sai said as they left the office room. Yeah, Naruto muttered. But then he brightened. At least we're together. Team 7's the best team, even when the missions are boring. Sakura smiled in a way that warmed his chest. You're right. It'll be nice to have a simple day for once. It's a beautiful day. As they headed to meet their client, Naruto relaxed into the familiar rhythm of his team. Sai was still new, still growing on him. But being on a team with Sakura had always felt easy. Comfortable. He knew exactly where he stood on this team, and exactly what his role was. A thought of Katona flickered through his mind. Even though they were headed in the right direction, being around her wasn't comfortable or easy, not after learning what she'd done. He felt more nervous in her presence than he felt around anyone. They had spent hours walking around the village together the day before, but that nervousness never really got better. He wanted to fully trust her, be comfortable with her just like he was with all his friends, but that wasn't something he could do right away. Not yet. Just the thought of her made his chest tighten. He shook it off. He had a new mission to focus on. Their client was a middle-aged merchant with a cart full of textiles. Thank you for escorting me, he said nervously. There have been bandits on this route lately. I couldn't make this journey alone. Don't worry. Naruto grinned. We'll get you there safely. I guarantee it. The merchant smiled, visibly relieved. As they set out, Sakura walked ahead with the merchant, asking about his wares and his family. Sai fell into step beside the cart, occasionally sketching. Naruto kept watch on their surroundings, scanning the trees, the road ahead, the spaces between. But his eyes kept drifting to Sakura. Katona tied her newly refreshed headband at the nape of her neck and headed straight to the Intelligence Division building. She would probably never get over what she did to Naruto, but she was ready to change how she responded to her guilt. Guilt had led her to do terrible things in the name of avoiding more guilt. Controlling others wouldn't keep them safe. All she could do now was accept that and control her own actions instead. Then, maybe, people wouldn't die for her. She took a deep breath before entering the office. Complaints from her bodyguards always managed to make their way to her master. Master Takamura was one of the Leaf's elite interrogators that worked alongside Ibiki. He was not someone you'd want mad at you. Yet Katona found herself the recipient of his scoldings after nearly every mission that sent her out with a bodyguard. She had always been careful to do just enough to earn the reputation of difficult without making it obvious she was breaking any rules. Being unpleasant wasn't a crime. But manipulating her bodyguard, and potentially discovering that she had manipulated all of them, would certainly not be tolerated. She'd already prepared herself for the consequences. She deserved whatever was coming. Surely Naruto had mentioned her manipulation in his mission report to the Hokage. Beyond that, this was the worst ending to a mission she'd led since becoming Chunin. She somehow managed to get herself hospitalized and leave her subordinates to track down the enemy alone. Her mistakes put everyone in danger. As she set her belongings on her desk, Master Takamura swung open his office door and stepped in the doorframe. "Katona! Come here," he barked. Katona swallowed as she shuffled into his office, closing the door softly behind her. Mushiho and Toma were already inside, standing at attention. "Good morning, Master Takamura. Have you recovered fully?" He raised an eyebrow at her as he sat down behind his desk. "Yes, I'm okay now." "Very well. You'll be going on another mission tomorrow. Another village has reported incidents of bandit raids." He handed Katona a set of scrolls. "Review the notes from the Anbu and Ibiki about the previous raids. These raids might be connected." "Yes, sir. We will get to the bottom of this," Mushiho said, giving their master a slight bow. "Dismissed," Master Takamura said, sitting back down behind his desk. While Mushiho and Toma filed out of the office door, Katona hesitated. She waited for Master Takamura to order her to stay behind to talk. Finally, he looked up at her. Katona's stomach dropped. "Out." He waved her away. Katona tilted her head slightly before swiftly bowing and leaving his office. She slid into her chair with a sigh of relief. It didn't look like she was going to be in trouble after this mission, which didn't make any sense. If Naruto told Lady Tsunade what she did to him, Master Takamura would have certainly found out by now. The only explanation was that Naruto didn't say anything. But why? Maybe he hadn't submitted his report yet. He seemed like the type of person to turn in his reports late. In any case, she was prepared to face the consequences one way or another. 2 missions in a week. Finally. I'm tired of being stuck in this stupid building all the time, Toma said, taking a scroll from Katona and unraveling it. Katona looked up at her teammates, both eager to work on this investigation. She could worry about the consequences later. "Let's read everything thoroughly. Then, we can discuss our strategy." She handed Mushiho a scroll before settling in to study her own. They were halfway to the neighboring village when Naruto's instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. He scanned the trees on either side of the road, muscles tensing. There, movement in the branches. "Sai," he said quietly. "Right," Sai replied, fingers drifting toward his scroll. Sakura moved closer to the merchant, wielding her kunai in front of them. The merchant clutched his cart nervously. 3 bandits dropped from the trees, weapons drawn and faces covered. "The cart," the leader demanded. "Leave it and go." "Yeah, that's not gonna happen." Naruto stepped forward, positioning himself between the bandits and the merchant. Shadow clones burst into existence around him. The bandits attacked and Naruto moved on instinct, clones spreading out to protect the merchant and the cart while he engaged directly. One bandit swung at him with a sword. Naruto ducked, countered, and sent the man stumbling back. From the corner of his eye, he saw a second bandit move toward Sakura. "Sakura!" he shouted, already moving. His clone intercepted, keeping the enemy back until he poofed out of existence. Using the opening he created, Sakura's chakra-enhanced fist connected with the bandit's jaw. He crumbled to the ground. Her boot landed on the back of his head, keeping him down as she continued covering the merchant. Sai's ink beasts wrapped around the third bandit, restraining him efficiently. Within minutes, all 3 bandits were subdued, tied up, and sitting in the dirt. All right. We did it! Naruto grinned, raising a fist in the air. The merchant was shaking but unhurt. Thank you? Thank you so much! I thought. It's our job, Sakura said kindly. You're safe now. As they continued toward the village, the subdued bandits being escorted behind them by Sai, Naruto fell into step beside Sakura. You didn't have to jump in like that, she said softly. I could have handled him. I know. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. I just reacted, I guess. Sorry. Don't apologize. She looked at him with a smile. Thanks for having my back. Even when I don't need it. That's what teammates do, right? I'll always protect you, Sakura. That's a promise. She smiled. I know, Naruto. Thank you. They walked in comfortable silence for a moment. The sun was warm, the danger had passed, and Team 7 had worked together perfectly. This was what he fought for. This was what mattered. Sakura safe, Team 7 together, everyone protected. He thought of Katona, how she'd pushed him away to keep him safe. How she'd gotten hurt because she couldn't accept protection. How she tried to control everything and ended up more vulnerable because of it. He hoped she would learn to let people help her. The way Sakura let him help her, even when she didn't technically need it. Teammates were always supposed to help each other. Today had been a good day. Simple mission, but that didn't make it less important. They'd protected someone. Worked together. Been there for each other. That's what Team 7 did. That's what he did. Katona, Master Takamura's voice came from the doorway. The police force wants you to assist with a quick interrogation. Right. I'll go now. She turned to Toma and Mushiho. Prepare the rest of the materials while I'm gone. I trust you both. You got it, boss. Toma saluted. She smiled to herself as she walked to the police station. Another interrogation. She could do this. She could move forward and become a better person. Hey, Katona. We just have one for you today, said a member of the police force. We got a report of a robbery in a civilian's home. The victim made a positive ID on this guy, but he's denying everything. Minutes later, Katona sat across from the handcuffed suspect. She folded her hands on the table with a warm smile. Was that manipulation? She moved her hands to her lap. Hi. Do you mind telling me what happened with the robbery? The man shifted in his seat, avoiding eye contact. I already told them. They've got the wrong person. Katona's ears rang at his lie, but she needed to know what exactly he'd done and why. Good people can do bad things. And if this man was truly good, he deserved a second chance. There's been some kind of mix-up. Were you in the area around 3 a.m.? Maybe the victim saw you and got confused. Katona smiled and watched him closely, analyzing his behavior just as she always did. But her smile dropped. She had just lied to him